Forge Master of Fuses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Steal. Thinking about everything that happened during the winter vacation, Olivia couldn't help but touch her face, her eyes full of coldness. That heavy slap hid her face and also left a mark on her heart. Even if there is no trace on her face now, her heart, which is broken into 8 pieces, will never heal. Everything is because of that damn Tang Fan. If it weren't for that Tang Fan, if he and SYNOPSIS were not so close, how could the bombing happen? If there hadn't been that bombing, no, if the bombing hadn't failed, her mother wouldn't have treated her like this. She had to admit that Tang Fan was a bit capable. His physical fitness was not bad, and his reaction was also very sensitive. But so what? This time, they were not competing in mecha casting or mecha driving, but mecha design. This is her home court, something she has learned for 15 years. She must step on this damn woman under her feet, the kind that will never be able to turn over. Olivia clenched her fists, walked out of the dormitory, came to the woods behind the 10th teaching building, took out a whistle, and blew it twice. The round whistle did not make any sound, but Olivia seemed to be used to it and waited quietly. Not long after, a boy in a black training uniform suddenly jumped down from the roof of the 10th teaching building and appeared in front of Olivia. In the last explosion, we have lost 6 people, and the school is still watching. Hearing this tone, the visitor was quite dissatisfied with Olivia. After all, Olivia is Olivia, a woman who can only shirk responsibility and never take the blame. Facing the visitor's dissatisfaction, she didn't take it to heart at all, but happily added a knife. Eat the salary of the emperor, be loyal to the emperor. If you take the money from my Zhang family, you must obey my orders unconditionally. Besides, the task I issued was to teach Tang Fan a lesson, and I didn't ask you to blow up the training room. You acted on your own. Not only did you fail to achieve the goal, but you almost implicated me. I didn't settle accounts with you, and you still have the face to complain. Olivia's words made the visitor angry to death. What did Olivia say at the beginning? Give me Tang Fan's schedule and training room drawings, and get me a copy of the explosive agent. I want to teach Tang Fan a lesson. Anyone would misunderstand it, right? How could he do that for her, just because he was worried that Olivia would fail and ruin the plan? The man was furious at Olivia's behavior of blaming him, but he had no way to deal with Olivia. After all, no matter how unreasonable Olivia was, there was one thing she said that was right. Eat the salary of the emperor, be loyal to the emperor. As long as Olivia's orders did not conflict with Zhang Avi's orders, they must execute them unconditionally. What do you want me to do this time? Olivia could hear the hidden anger in the man's voice, but she didn't care. I want Tang Fan's design drawings, a complex task, said by Olivia easily, coupled with Olivia's eyes that said you must do it, made the man's mouth twitch. She's just a little girl who looks a bit like you and has a close relationship with a teacher. If she provokes you, you will kill her. Zhang family's credit points are so damn hard to get. But now that you've got them, what can you do? Okay. I'll give them to you before the submission date of the mecha design competition. Upon hearing this, Olivia was unhappy. Give it to me before the submission date of the mecha design competition. What use will I have for it? The man guessed something, and there was a little more fear in his eyes when he looked at Olivia. I will try to get the design drawings as soon as possible, but I can't be sure if it's the final draft. Olivia snorted coldly. The final draft is naturally the best, but I won't force it if there's none. I've never had much confidence in you. If it doesn't work, I have other ways. This was a bit too much. The man's face turned livid. After we get started, how do we get in touch? Olivia nodded her chin, put it in Director Ma's mailbox, and just send me a message. The man obviously didn't expect that in just half a year, Olivia had already done this. Ma Ping's mailbox key. Such an important thing. Olivia still looked as if it was a matter of course. Don't think that everyone is the same as you, stupid. The man's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He bowed to Olivia and turned away without saying goodbye. Olivia snorted and muttered, if such a strong medicine doesn't work, what are these people for? Olivia stayed there for a long time until the light brain flashed, and she impatiently turned on the light brain. When she saw the 3 words Director Ma flashing on the light brain, she immediately changed her face and answered with a smile, Director Ma, Is there anything I can do for you? Ma Ping on the opposite side didn't know what she said. Olivia nodded repeatedly, and finally ran towards the office building of the art department. Not far away, George quietly took back the eavesdropping device and couldn't help but complain. The woman of the Zhang family, haha. After complaining, George turned on the light brain and sent a message to Tang Fan. The target is taking action, hide your little tail. Tang Fan received the message and couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly. The good show has begun. As a woman whose physical and mental strength have been enhanced to level B, Tang Fan quickly discovered the stalker as soon as he appeared. Life in the world depends on acting. It is not difficult to perform without noticing. Although Tang Fan felt uncomfortable, she still endured it for the final result. She left the dormitory at a fixed time every day, went to class first, and then went to the studio, painting for several hours, and finally put the draft in the safe in the studio. Half a month is the same day. Tang Fan's cautious and regular work and rest successfully concealed the group of people who followed her. When she saw her fingerprints that had disappeared on the lock of the safe door in the third week after receiving the message, her mouth curled up slightly. When Tang Fan opened the safe and looked at the rolled-up scroll, his smile became even more intense. He rolled up the scroll seemingly casually, but he actually had his own method and reason. No matter how others imitated it, it could never hide from Tang Fan's eyes. The fish seemed to have taken the bait. However, even a cooked duck could fly away, and one should not be too complacent before things become a foregone conclusion. The smile on Tang Fan's face was fleeting. When he took out the scroll and closed the door, he returned to his usual calm self. In the following days, Tang Fan fell into an anxious wait. He spent a lot of time in the studio and a lot of time writing. But most of the time he was in a vicious cycle of painting and throwing away and painting again, and he never got out of it. Until he heard that Olivia smashed the studio he rented, the big stone in Tang Fan's heart suddenly fell to the ground. Chapter 77. Where did the wolf go? A simple design drawing with only a prototype could make Olivia so angry that she smashed the studio. It can be seen that his work must have stimulated Olivia a lot. Such a concept drawing that can be drawn at will can put a lot of pressure on Tang Fan. It seems that although Olivia has studied professionally for 15 years, she really has no talent in mecha design. When Tang Fan heard the unreliable news that Brad exchanged a bag of dried meat from Hoki, saying that Miss Olivia's concept drawing that she had prepared for a long time was torn to pieces by her, it is estimated that she will have to start from scratch. Tang Fan was so happy that he ate half a bowl of rice for the first time. Since the opponent is not good, Tang Fan has more confidence in himself. Although it is just a bait, the show must be done in full. The prototype concept drawing was scribbled and revised by Tang Fan, gradually refined, and became more and more exquisite. 2 days later, Tang Fan found that a glass spider silk tied to the scroll was broken. His studio was stolen again. The frequent visits of thieves to Tang Fan's studio had to make Tang Fan doubt Miss Olivia's design level and the similarity between Miss Olivia's work and his own conception. Hopefully, they are not too similar. If so, the matter will be too big. In this way, it will be a bargain for Lan Yuan. After all, Olivia is also a big worry for him. However, it is not necessarily the case. After all, the nails in the school have been buried here for many years without being discovered. This girl has only been enrolled for more than half a year, and several of them have been pulled out. Lan Yuan, that old fox, may want to keep this girl to catch bigger fish. Tang Fan thought about it and decided to say hello to Lan Yuan first. By the way, let's talk about Lan Yuan's share. He made concessions for the sake of the school, modified his plan, and lost a large part of his interests. In fact, the old ginger is still spicy. The stingy Tang Fan did not get much advantage when he met the stingy old Lan Yuan. The stingy old Lan Yuan did not give in, so that the stingy Tang Fan did not have to give him face and did whatever he wanted. Tang Fan spent more than an hour nagging before Lan Yuan made a little concession and wrote a note for Tang Fan to give him a 20% discount on the rental fee of the studio. Lan Yuan also added a proviso to this note: the studio must be restored to its original state. Even if he had to work hard to get a 20% discount on the rental fee, Tang Fan would not mind. Even a mosquito leg is meat. He solemnly took photos of the note from various angles to keep evidence, and then reluctantly handed the note to Director Fang Mian of the finance department. Fang Mian got the note and immediately scanned it into the file with 18 layers of password locks, full alliance insurance, and deciphering the password is considered a crime. After saving it, Feng Mian and Tang Fan smiled at each other, and everything was self-explanatory. After completing this sacred work, Tang Fan hurried to the studio to color and finalize his design drawings. Then, he grabbed Brad and Zhao Fan, two strong men, to clean the studio, happily returned the studio, and returned to the dormitory with his own drawings. From then on, apart from living in the classroom, they lived a life of staying at home in the dormitory. It was said that Olivia, who had returned to the dormitory after Tang Fan finished the design, smashed the studio again. Although the dormitory did not have a safe, it had a strong administrator with strong physical and mental strength, which was much safer than the studio. Moreover, Tang Fan and his roommate Miss Qin Yi had completely opposite course schedules, and there were always people in the dormitory. It would be extremely difficult to steal the design from Tang Fan again. According to George's gossip, Miss Olivia had an appointment with someone in the grove again. Unfortunately, the dormitory administrator was more powerful than Miss Olivia had imagined. 5 people were killed, and Tang Fan did not even touch the edge of the design. As the submission date approached, Olivia became more and more irritable. On the submission date, Olivia was almost the first person to rush into the organizing committee office to submit the manuscript. To everyone's surprise, Tang Fan, who was said to have completed the design long ago, never showed up. It was not until the last moment of the deadline that Tang Fan rushed into the organizing committee, holding his own drawings. Seeing this scene, some were happy and some were sad. Many students who bet on Tang Fan to give up the competition were in tears, while others were jubilant and excited. After the design drawings were posted, they actively participated in online voting and on-site voting. But when all the works were exhibited, everyone was stunned. Among the works of 163 students, there was only one wolf-shaped mecha. It was agreed that Tang Fan's design inspiration came from the planet Orlando, from the lone wolf. It was agreed that Olivia Smith's design inspiration came from the ghost wolf, who let the melon-eating crowd down. It's like the teacher promised an open book exam, but the books were ready, but it was found that the test questions were not on the book at all. This made the speculators who intended to cheat to win the gambling money beat their chests and stamp their feet, and burst into tears. Since it is unclear whether it is an enemy or a friendly army, just give up voting directly, or vote for something else. There are 1,000 Hamlets in the hearts of 1,000 people. Everyone likes different types of games, which is completely understandable. But entertaining these laymen who know nothing and repeatedly explaining such basic questions about the rules of the competition is tiring for them, okay? For example, look, that mushroom-shaped mecha is so cute. Does this kind of series of mechas get extra points? If there are multiple mechas in the work, will it be judged as a whole or individually? Let's go over and ask. The series of works using multiple mechas have entered the offline selection stage, and will be scored comprehensively based on the integrity and completion of the entire series, but it does not mean that the works using the series will definitely score higher than those using a single mecha, so, there is no advantage. Considering that he has worked so hard to draw so many, you should still vote for him. Another example, why are some manuscripts in black and white, and some in color? Color is only part of the setting. If the use of color helps to attract votes or help the judges understand the work, it will be helpful, but the core of being shortlisted for offline selection ultimately depends on online voting, but I think the black and white ones are not attractive. Or the vibrant lemon yellow ones are better, especially eye-catching. The robot will freeze if it repeats the explanation, let alone the human. So, for the first time, the organizing committee felt that organizing a mecha design competition was too difficult. Fortunately, there was only one day for on-site voting, and everyone still persisted with their love for mecha. However, the exhibition hall began to limit the flow of people in the morning and closed for maintenance at 4 p.m. But even so, in just 8 hours, more than 1,700 teachers and students came to the exhibition hall and received more than 1,500 valid votes. Ranked first, there are 4 sets of Chinese-style ancient martial arts mechas, blue swordsman mechas holding double swords, fiery red gun god mechas holding long spears, white sword god mechas holding long swords, and black assassin mechas holding daggers. Each design drawing is lifelike, with many notes, and has strong operability. This is the work of the 7th grade seniors. It's really beautiful. Give us juniors a way out. After seeing so many works with obviously unreasonable head-to-body ratios and messy color matching, I can finally come here to wash my eyes. The fiery red mecha is so beautiful, I really want to buy the copyright and build one to put at home as a decoration. Chapter 78, Stab. Gold will always shine. Good designs will always be appreciated by people of insight. Such an excellent work as the Guwu Mecha will naturally not be buried. It successfully won 376 votes and beat the others. As for the wolf-shaped mecha, it suffered an unexpected Waterloo due to the cautious behavior of many gamblers and was almost eliminated in the first round. When the results came out, Miss Olivia Smith's dormitory was immediately in trouble. After the news came out, everyone came to their senses and realized that the wolf-shaped mecha was Miss Olivia's masterpiece. So, did Tang Fan stand everyone up? No. Tang Fan only said from beginning to end that his design inspiration came from the planet Orlando, but he never said that it came from any animal, including the lone wolf. They were fooled. Think about Tang Fan's character, and then think about the bet on the source of Tang Fan's design inspiration. They have reason to believe that the person behind this bet is 99% Tang Fan, who is shameless and only wants money. Damn, he is deliberately making things mysterious for the sake of the dealer. Maybe the design inspiration came from the planet Orlando, and it was also a smokescreen that he had set off. Tang Fan must give everyone an explanation for this matter. Faced with the growing voices of the masses, Tang Fan finally couldn't sit still after being silent for a night. He didn't say a word and just posted a video. The video was not long, only a few minutes, but the number of clicks exceeded 5,000 in a very short time. In other words, almost everyone in the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy had clicked on it, and some people even watched it twice or 3 times. As for the content, it was also very simple. It was just that Tang Fan's studio was stolen twice. High-definition pictures, the kind that can withstand inspection. Except for the 2 thefts, there was no trace of cutting and splicing. Such a video is enough to explain why Tang Fan changed the theme. There are masters among the people. There are masters. On the screen of the first theft of Tang Fan's studio, the date clearly written on the video was circled, and a school ticket from Miss Olivia Smith who smashed the studio was added next to it. The crowd was boiling all of a sudden. Before Olivia could explain, another expert continued to make up for it. This guy actually clearly cut out Tang Fan's sketches and concept drawings from tens of thousands of frames, and put Olivia's work aside. This time, Olivia was directly nailed to the pillar of shame for plagiarism. Although, after Olivia smashed the dormitory again, she belatedly showed the design patent certificate she applied for. Unfortunately, the eyes of the masses are sharp. Many knowledgeable people who can't tolerate the slightest sand in their eyes joined in and spread these hammers to every corner of the alliance. Olivia's reputation was directly rotten on the street. She had an advantage in the online voting, but she had to rely on the Smiths to buy votes for her and hire water troops to whitewash her before she could barely pass. Before Olivia could breathe a sigh of relief, Tang Fan actually started to make trouble again. He actually started a live broadcast. The live broadcast room was directly called, "Teach you how to stand out on the mecha design competition and create the most shining mecha." Seeing this title, Olivia almost exploded on the spot. The mecha design competition has not ended yet. And you are not the first place, but you dare to say that you want to teach others to create the most shining mecha. What a big dog's courage. Olivia couldn't wait to enter the live broadcast room, only to find that there was a small title in the live broadcast room. The first bullet, how to mechaize the animals you are familiar with. A simple sentence directly stabbed a knife in Olivia's heart. Tang Fan stayed on the planet Orlando for 7 days, and he dared to claim that the lone wolf was an animal he was familiar with, and said that he just mechaized it. How should she deal with it after living with another wolf for 7 years and being nailed to the pillar of shame for plagiarism? Olivia couldn't help her temper and smashed her own optical computer. After smashing it, she couldn't help regretting it, and forced money to buy someone else's optical computer for her roommate and entered the live broadcast room again. At this time, Tang Fan had already explained halfway, and the wall behind him was full of mecha design drawings, not only the lone wolf, but also the saber-toothed fish, the red-feathered goose, the violent frog, the iron-headed duck. All kinds of star beasts on the planet Orlando were turned into mechas and came alive from Tang Fan's pen. The key is that Tang Fan also said, animal mechaization is the first step in designing mechas. Only when you master this technology can you truly become a mecha designer. In other words, Olivia, who can't even pass this technology, is not even qualified to call herself a mecha designer. This is really poisonous. The most infuriating thing is that you can't say anything about others without naming them. The barrage exploded, but Tang Fan didn't care and calmly put away his pen. It seemed that his pen, which was less than 10 credit points, was more important than the barrage. My God, you are a host, please have some awareness of being a host, okay? Just when everyone thought that Tang Fan would choose to avoid this, Tang Fan finally put away his pen and spoke. There is still half an hour left, and I will selectively answer some of your questions. Of course, if you ask questions involving privacy, please don't ask them. I won't tell you even if you ask them. Everyone's hands, eager to try, could not help but pause. You are so arrogant. Do you still know that you are a host? What privacy does a host need? Believe it or not, I will expose your privacy tomorrow. Oh, this classmate, you are too confident. Since the beginning of the school, so many great gods have come out, but they have not been able to expose this monster. You should save your energy. Who knows, the next second, there will be someone who doesn't believe in evil, and actually asked a question that everyone wanted to ask but didn't dare to ask. Excuse me, what do you think of this plagiarism incident? Everyone silently gave a thumbs up to the student whose ID is ask if you don't understand. Tang Fan looked at the screen full of 666, knowing that he couldn't avoid it, he could only shake his head and point to the design behind him. The inspiration of creation is often just a momentary thought, and to complete this idea, you need to find the right way and method. This process of searching is the process of creation. In fact, sometimes for a detail, we will draw many concept drawings until we find what we are satisfied with and what we want. Behind me are my exercises, which cannot fully represent my full strength. That lone wolf, too, in one sentence, it was all about the artistic creation process, without mentioning Olivia at all, but indirectly stepping on Olivia. What you tried so hard to plagiarize was just my exercise, a fleeting thought that I didn't take to heart at all. This trick was played very well, and directly led to Olivia smashing another light computer. Chapter 79 Overturn. If that were all, it would be fine. When the experts were judging, some of them simply ignored her work, while more of them deducted a large portion of her score for originality, which accounted for 30%. The originality score was the lowest, the basic setting score had no advantage, and the relevance to the theme was also average. The painting coding techniques used and the final overall presentation effect were only enough to get a passing score. Olivia, who had entered the finals at the tail end and had always started from a lower point than others, was directly eliminated in the finals. Miss Olivia ran away on the spot. If the security robots and the organizing committee members had not stopped her quickly, I am afraid that the exhibition hall would have followed the footsteps of the studio and dormitory and been smashed to pieces by Miss Olivia. Even though she was being held by the security robot, Miss Olivia was still arrogant, pointing at Tang Fan's nose and yelling, "Don't be so proud, a layman who stepped on me to get to the top. I don't believe you can get a good ranking. It's still uncertain who will win." Tang Fan silently took a few steps back and hid behind the members of the organizing committee. Brain damage is a disease that must be treated. I don't know if this disease is contagious. It's better to stay away from him. The brain-damaged Olivia was taken away, and the mecha design competition was still going on. The evaluation results came out soon. The first place, as expected, was the series of ancient martial arts mechas. When the organizing committee announced the list of winners, everyone was shocked. Because this series of ancient martial arts mechas were not designed by the seniors in the 7th grade, but by the layman who has been in the limelight recently, Tang Fan. Full marks for originality, full marks for basic settings, full marks for fit with the theme, full marks for the painting skills, painting techniques used, and the final overall presentation effect. The champion is naturally well deserved. The seniors almost gnashed their teeth as they watched Tang Fan stand on the podium. They were so unwilling to accept that they actually lost to layman. All of this was Olivia's fault. If she hadn't deliberately provoked Tang Fan, how could they be so embarrassed? In an instant, the seniors of the mecha design major hated Olivia. At the same time, a large number of speculators who bet on Olivia to win also realized that Olivia, a professional with ability that they were optimistic about, actually lost to the layman Tang Fan. And the loss was undisputed and a complete defeat. Who to blame? Of course it's Olivia. You are a professional with ability, but you actually plagiarized the work of a layman, and in the end you actually lost. For a time, Olivia not only became a street rat that everyone shouted and beat in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, but also became a black on the entire internet. Even if the young lady is rich, she is isolated, and her situation is not much better. The most surprising thing was not Tang Fan's comeback, but when he stood on the podium and everyone thought he would mention money and Olivia, he changed his previous image and became serious. He said seriously, "The mecha we love will always accompany us all the time, longer than family, friends, lovers, and children. Every time after a fierce battle, the scars of war and new equipment will make the body more attractive. As long as we put on new equipment, we can go out again. So, please love and deeply love your mecha. Take good care of them, just like your family, friends, lovers, and children." Thank you, such a Tang Fan, not to mention the spectators. Even Brad and others who are familiar with him are not used to it. When everyone reacted, Tang Fan had already left with a trophy and prize money. And please love and deeply love your mecha has become the most commonly used slogan of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy mecha design competition. Tang Fan turned around gracefully. As soon as he returned to the dormitory, he changed his face and quickly helped George calculate the odds and the bets, and carried out the quick settlement business. For a while, the teachers and students of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy were happy and sad. A dealer wins all, a small bet for a big win, plus Olivia bet all her pocket money this year on her winning, so Tang Fan and others picked up a big bargain, and instantly made a lot of money, grinning from ear to ear. The profit was divided into 10 parts, 3 for George, 2 for Lan Yuan and Tang Fan, and 1 each for Brad, Zhao Fan and Qin Yi. Everyone is happy. From then on, Tang Fan no longer worried about his living expenses and training funds. With a bulging wallet and full of courage, Tang Fan waved his hand and said, "I'll treat you tonight." According to the standard of 9 dishes and 1 soup, everyone start ordering. Soon, everyone in the dormitory with bulging wallets began a new round of ordering dishes. Tang Fan agreed to all of them generously. However, Tang Fan would never step out of the dormitory for fear of causing unnecessary trouble. If he walked out of the dormitory, he would definitely be chased and blocked, and the traffic would be paralyzed. The long-awaited feast would probably not be eaten. Kenya took over the task gloriously. Accompanied by George, she stepped on the flying board that Tang Fan had borrowed for friendship and headed straight to the material recycling center. After all, there was no vegetable market in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, and buying vegetables could only be done here. After all, star plants and star beasts were all resources, and they were all objects of recycling at the resource recycling center. Under Tang Fan's remote control, the vegetables were brought back, and the dormitory was once again filled with the aroma of food. Bradford was so moved that he actually picked up an external video recording device and aimed it at Tang Fan, who was cooking, and broadcast it live. The live broadcast room was crowded with people. On the one hand, they drilled and said that Tang Fan was not kind, and that he only showed him but did not let him eat. On the other hand, they were reluctant to leave the live broadcast room, so they could only find various foods nearby. Imagine that they were the food Tang Fan was cooking, and stuffed them into their mouths. By the time Tang Fan realized what Brad had done, the food was almost on the table. Tang Fan glanced at Brad and said with a smile, "Eat less and save the plate of beef strips. I'll bring it to the dormitory door later and let everyone taste it." Brad wailed immediately, and the live broadcast room was full of double clicks and various rewards. Zhao Fan patted Brad inside. Sacrificing a bite of your food to please the audience and enrich his own wallet, Tang Fan succeeded once, and there will definitely be a second time. "Brother, please accept my condolences." George and Qin Yi also realized this problem, and their eyes looking at Brad were murderous. Faced with public anger, Brad could only hug his strong self with grievance. It was really hard for him. Seeing Brad aggrieved, the live broadcast room was happy. Family status, it's clear at a glance. Are you stupid? IQ is a flaw. Looking at the barrage, Brad, who was aggrieved, became autistic. Nothing can save him except delicious food. Nothing. He must be coaxed by 2 servings of beef shreds with light shadow. Yes. That's it. Brad felt that this was his reasonable request. Quite reasonable. Chapter 80 Live Broadcast. Tang Fan ignored the angry Brad and just said lightly, "It's time to eat." When he saw everyone quickly pick up their bowls, Brad couldn't help it. He ran in 2 steps, picked up the bowl and picked up the chopsticks. All the grievances and reluctances were thrown aside. 8 dishes and 1 soup are so luxurious. Why do you want beef shreds with lantern shadows? The slap in the face and other things will only happen if others know about it. As long as he doesn't say it or admit it, Who can hold him back after a few seconds of struggle in his heart? Brad didn't know that the live broadcast room was already laughing. If Tang Fan hadn't ended today's live broadcast with a sentence "tonight at the old time, start the live broadcast at 8 o'clock, the ha-ha-ha on the barrage would have drowned Brad. Holding the beef shreds with lantern shadows to welcome the teachers and students of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, Brad was proud for a long time in the face of everyone's smiling expressions. As for the truth, why do you have to bully a 200-pound kid? Seeing through but not saying it, we are still good friends. After all, only when he made a fool of himself, everyone could eat the beef strips with lantern shadows. Thinking of the thin, bright red, spicy and fragrant beef strips with lantern shadows, everyone's saliva overflowed again. Brad, let's have another food live broadcast, okay? Please. Although everyone is more interested in food live broadcasts, Tang Fan, who claims to be a mecha foundry, broadcasts mechas at 8 o'clock in the evening. Of course, in order to connect with the previous content, the title of the live broadcast room is still, teaching you how to stand out on the mecha design competition and create the most shining mecha. It's just that the subtitle has changed. The second bullet, how to mechaize the people you are familiar with. Familiar people, mecha? As soon as this title came out, everyone exploded at once. The barrage was rarely unified, and they were all asking whether the ancient martial arts mecha had a prototype? Who is the prototype? The ancient martial arts mecha naturally has a prototype. As for who is the prototype? Tang Fan did not hide it and directly took out a video. In the video, accompanied by a word "be careful," a tall and indifferent man holding a pair of light energy daggers, forcibly resisted a lone wolf, and finally kicked the lone wolf over alive, crippling it. The fierce fighting scene made people's blood boil. If it were someone else, these netizens with infinite imaginations would have long been enough to write a million-word romance novel. But when everyone saw clearly that the male protagonist was their respected instructor Gao, the female protagonist was the new internet celebrity Tang Fan, and the onlookers were Director Li of the Pharmacy Department, Colonel Song Si of the Expeditionary Force, and Major Song Tong, everyone was actually silent. After all, the female protagonist had just had a fight with Olivia Smith because of Colonel Song Si, and now, under Song Si's nose, she was saved by Song Si's friend Go Xiaogu. What kind of twists and turns is this? Everyone looked at Tang Fan differently. Who knew that Tang Fan didn't mind at all, and said what he should say, which was no different from talking about how to mechaize an animal you are familiar with. In fact, because the last time he talked about it in detail, he deliberately sped up the progress. Just when everyone was secretly waiting for the last question session, Tang Fan actually took advantage of the time left to explain the professional content of mecha casting, how to materialize the mecha design drawing. The target, of course, is the assassin mecha based on Go Xiaogu in the ancient martial arts mecha series. In other words, Tang Fan not only mechaized Go Xiaogu, but also made this mecha. What kind of plot is this? The whole network is boiling. How many people at Song Si, with ulterior motives, told him, Colonel Song, the little sister you are optimistic about actually designed a mecha based on your friend and materialized it? Tang Fan's live broadcast room broke through the upper limit in minutes and exploded. The platform was also very curious about this gossip. Not only did they not limit a flow or kick people out, but they upgraded Tang Fan, a newcomer who made 2 live broadcasts. A live broadcast room for 5,000 people is not enough, right? Directly increase it to 10,000. 10,000 is not enough? Then 20,000. If 20,000 is not enough? Then 50,000. 50,000 is not enough? Then 100,000. No more. After all, the upper limit is only so much? Yes, the number of people in the live broadcast room finally reached a terrifying 100,000. Mecha manufacturing itself is a huge system of knowledge. In the process of human historical development and change, mecha, as a huge system, has existed for more than 4,000 years. As a result, countless collaterals and branches have also developed. No one dares to say that he has a comprehensive understanding of mecha, which also leads to many people selectively understanding only the parts they are interested in. After all, life is limited, but knowledge is unlimited. Many people are not interested in the mecha that an underage girl put together. But when this matter was linked to the son of the Union Marshal, the second-generation Song Si who had the most hope of becoming a marshal, and everyone looked at this matter with a pink filter, the taste changed. 100,000 people were online at the same time, not just watching a little girl materialize a mecha design drawing, but gossiping about the emotional life of the Union Marshal, or even the future Union Marshal. Although most of them came with a gossipy mentality, they actually took it seriously after watching it. First of all, the design drawing. After all, it is the champion of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy Mecha Design Competition. Whether it is originality, basic settings, or even the relevance of the theme, the painting skills, painting techniques used, and the final overall presentation effect, they are all remarkable. The mature design style and unique design concept, if it were not for everyone's confirmation and affirmation, many people would think that this design drawing came from the hands of a professional mecha designer. The most important thing is that the beautiful girl in front of them is not a professional mecha designer, but a student of the mecha casting department. I really don't know what the teachers of the art department of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy are doing. Such talents can't be retained. What? You said that since ancient times, the mecha casting department has been more popular than the art department? That is for those rough men with brute force. If you let a beautiful girl choose, 99% of them will choose the art department, okay? Of course, except for the one who is doing a live broadcast. After all, under the eyes of 100,000 people, this little girl used the operating system, energy supply system, energy tank, cockpit, maintenance cabin of a purple-level mecha named Cheetah, as well as key parts and universal accessories made by herself using raw materials, to perfectly assemble a mecha. A mecha that has passed the robot test and reached the purple level. The design drawings were brought to real life, and it is both beautiful and practical. Just the skill of assembling mechas, I love it. Chapter 81 Awesome. That's it, that's all. We can accept that those who study mecha casting can draw design or something. But sister, you can't jump into the mecha and operate the mecha to perform a standard mecha driving style just because of one or two questioning voices in the live broadcast room. How can the vast number of mecha driving students deal with this? There may be their own teachers among the 100,000 viewers. Seeing this scene, the teacher will have something to say. As students of the mecha driving department, the most basic mecha driving style is not as good as a casting student. Thinking of this, I suddenly feel that I don't want to go to school anymore. The most terrible thing in the world is not that others are better than you, but people who are better than you work harder than you. Sister, can't we make a living by our looks? Why do you have to show off your professional skills? Just show it. It's okay to cause trouble to mecha casting department. Why do you cause trouble to their mecha design major and mecha driving department? Being a student party, it's too difficult for them. Humph. Never watch your live broadcast again. However, when they heard that today's assassin mecha was just the beginning of the series, and the remaining 3 mechas would be explained tomorrow, they actually began to look forward to it secretly and tried to customize this series of mechas. What the hell is this? It must be that the current mecha styles are too low, so they have to succumb to the appearance of this series of mechas. It must be. Who made this a world that values appearance? The same is true for mechas. By the way, how long has it been since Zhang's Mecha launched a new mecha? 2 years or 3 years? If Zha didn't launch a new mecha, how could they be so entangled? Humph. It's Ozao's fault. In this way, a movement caused by live broadcasting began vigorously. The first to suffer were the students of the mecha design major and the mecha driving department. The teachers took the video edited from Tang Fan's live broadcast and knocked on the blackboard to tell the students, if an outsider can do it, you must do it for me. Not only do it, but do it well. The students, who were full of grievances, finally made it to the end of school and immediately besieged the website of Zhang's Mecha. If a freshman can make a mecha, why can't you do it? There haven't been any new mechas for several years. Is it the regression of society or the laziness of the Zhao family? Can't the hard-earned money of the common people be used to buy a mecha of their choice? At this time, the video released by Tang Fan and the key points of several folk masters' paintings were also pushed to the forum High Ground, Zhang's Mecha website and other places. The heir of Zhang's Mecha actually did such a thing. Zhang's Mecha is weak in follow-up and can only resort to plagiarism. Is it personal misconduct or a problem with family education? Talk about the plagiarism case of the heir of Zhang's Mecha. Before Tang Fan started live broadcasting, Zhang's Mecha, Olivia Smith and Tang Fan had already become popular in the alliance. For Tang Fan, it is still unknown whether it is good or bad, but for Zhang's Mecha and Olivia, it is tantamount to a sudden disaster. Zhang's Mecha has done crisis public relations, but it is indeed an indelible fact that it has not been innovative for more than 2 years. The kind that can't be washed clean. Zhang's Mecha also contacted Tang Fan and proposed to buy the copyright of this series of mechas, and gave a considerable reward. Unfortunately, Tang Fan, who loves money like his life, resisted the temptation of money this time and flatly refused. This surprised many people, including Zhao Fan and Brad. Of course, many people looked up to Tang Fan because of this. Zhang's Mecha was forced to do nothing, and didn't want to give people a chance to criticize, so they had to let the design department work overtime and hurriedly launch the so-called new model. Looking at the configuration that was changed in soup but not in medicine, and obviously plagiarized the design of Blue Sea Mecha, everyone really had a lot to say. Originally, everyone would just complain about it, but who knew that the Star Court of the Alliance capital actually received a lawsuit? Tang Fan sued Zhang's Mecha for design infringement. You know, Zhang's Mecha basically monopolized the mecha industry of the Alliance. And Tang Fan is just a small internet celebrity who has just gained a little fame with a few live broadcasts. Many people say that Tang Fan is stubborn, and some people speculate who is behind Tang Fan with conspiracy theories. Tang Fan doesn't know these. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Tang Gang forced him to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, which has already shown that his position is consistent with that of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy on many issues. Then, the Smiths, who are on the opposite side of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, and Olivia, who looks a bit like him, can only be enemies rather than friends. While there is still the protection of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, and while he's on the side of justice, he will touch them first. It is probably impossible to shake the giant Zhang Mecha. It would be great if he could make the Smiths bleed a little to contribute to his living expenses and training expenses. Besides, with such a big commotion, as long as Tang Gang is not dead, he will definitely know. If he can lure this guy out, he won't have to play the game of guessing. Although he is talented, it is still very tiring to guess and guess. Tang Fan had a beautiful thought, but the reality was very cruel. From beginning to end, Tang Gang never showed up. Zhang's Mecha, which received a court summons, actually sent a financial director to pay the fine in one lump sum, according to the upper limit of the fine stipulated by the Alliance law. They clearly conveyed the words of Chairman Smith's wife Zhang Awei, problems that can be solved with money are not problems. That arrogant attitude made people angry, but they couldn't do anything to her. After all, she really has the capital to talk. But Zhang Awei didn't expect that Tang Fan would accept the money calmly, and then blatantly show the recorded scene to everyone during the live broadcast. That's 100,000 online viewers. The whole alliance was boiling, surprised at Tang Fan's courage to challenge the rich and fearless courage, and also surprised at Zhang Awei's arrogance of ignoring the law and spending a lot of money. The live broadcast room exploded again. I thought today's live broadcast was over. Who knew that after this guy dropped the bomb, he could still talk about design and casting calmly? Moreover, he did not talk about them one at a time, but released 3 bombs at once. When Tang Fan took out the prototypes of the remaining 3 ancient warrior mechas, everyone was stunned. The one using the sword was Colonel Song Si. The one using the spear was Lan Yuan, the dean of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. After the principal used it as a prototype, there was something even more surprising. What does Tang Gang mean by using a knife? Did that amazing genius disappear like a meteor after passing through the sky? You actually said that you turned familiar people into mechas. Why don't you say that you are familiar with the head of the Alliance and the Marshal of the Alliance? This is definitely hype, absolutely. But why do they always feel that among the 3 mechas, the metal luster of the swordsman mecha is more obvious and more dazzling? Moreover, during the test, this guy actually picked the swordsman mecha. Isn't he the rumored object of Colonel Song Si? Is the rumor about this female anchor true or false? It feels like there is too much information, and it's a bit hard to recover. However, this person's test today seems to be a little different. It's not the 32 mecha driving styles used last time, but the first 32 of the 128 basic physical techniques. Miss, you are going to be amazing. The barrage was lively. We are both students. Why are you so outstanding? A moment of silence for the students in the mecha driving department. The mecha driving department is dead. Tomorrow we will have one more course, how to drive a mecha to practice the 128 basic physical techniques. Thank you. Kill the mecha driving department series. Before you die, give me an assassin mecha. Before you die, give me a swordsman mecha. Before you die, give me a gun god mecha. Before you die, give me a sword god mecha. Adults don't do multiple choice questions. I want all 4. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Action is Worse Than Intention. Tang Fan looked at the barrage and raised his eyebrows. This audience is quite naughty. They are much better than him. If I open a mecha company, will you buy it? After Tang Fan said this, the live broadcast room was quiet for 3 seconds. Then, it exploded. Miss, are you openly challenging Zhang's mecha? Miss, what hatred do you have with Zhang's mecha? Why do you have to kill it? Buy it. Definitely buy it. You can open a company and produce mecha. Begging for the Guwu series to meet in person. Miss, I'm poor, can it be cheaper? It doesn't have to be too much, just a little cheaper than Zhang's mecha. Looking at the barrage, Tang Fan's heartbeat accelerated and his cheeks flushed. Oops. This is the taste of credit points, the feeling of being moved. Tang Fan narrowed his eyes and nodded. I have received everyone's opinions, thank you for your love for the Guwu Mecha series. But nothing can be achieved overnight. The Guwu Mecha series involves many aspects and may take some time, although everyone understands the truth, they still can't help sighing. A group of people are clamoring to report Tang Fan, the anchor who makes false advertisements, which makes Tang Fan laugh and cry. He just asked casually, it's very difficult for him to deal with you guys. In fact, not only Tang Fan was moved, but many people were moved. As soon as Tang Fan finished the live broadcast, the optical brain kept ringing. Among a group of communication requests, Tang Fan's first choice must still be Principal Lan Yuanlin. It is said that you can hide from the monk, but not the temple. He still has to stay on his territory for more than 6 years. As the first landlord, Principal Lan is his breadwinner, and he must curry favor with him. Principal Lan, what do you want to do, Xiao Tang? I heard that you are interested in starting a mecha company to make Guwu mechas go to market. I just mentioned it casually. Running a company is not like playing house. It's not that easy. Students of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy don't lie. We have the conditions to go, and if we don't have the conditions, we have to create the conditions to go. Even after saying this, Tang Fan still didn't understand. He was stupid. The principal wants to compete with Zhang's mecha. There is only this reason to explain Lan Yuan's active encouragement of his behavior. There is no way. Zhang's mecha has not launched new mechas for more than 2 years, and the price is still rising, and it is more expensive every year. Let alone students, the principal, can hardly afford it. This half-true and half-false complaint can reflect the problem. Has the price of Zhang's mechas made the hawk swear Lan Yuan is dissatisfied? But I am just a student. I don't know anything and I have nothing. It's difficult. The crying child gets candy. Cry for a while and see if there is anything that can be revealed between the fingers of the old fox Lan Yuan. Blue Ocean Mecha Academy has always encouraged students to start their own businesses. The school has set up a startup fund. You can apply for it. Lan Yuan, the old fox, held his hands tightly, not letting a single credit point slip out, and only let Tang Fan apply for the startup fund. How many people are in the startup fund of 1 million credit points a year? How many can Tang Fan apply for? Tang Fan was not discouraged, and continued to work hard. Mecha companies need relevant qualifications. Whether it is company qualifications or professional qualifications. I, a student, don't have any, no money, but resources are feasible? For this request, Lan Yuan did not reject it. Blue Ocean Mecha Academy acquired a bankrupt mecha company many years ago, and the company qualifications are still retained. As for professional qualifications, several teachers in the school have them. I will ask for them for you. However, you have to be responsible for the welfare of these teachers. The company has not yet opened, and Lan Yuan is already ready to fleece the wool, and it is still so blatant. Tang Fan felt that his back teeth were itching, and he wanted to bite this old thing. Instead of paying, they only gave a shell company, and they also asked for money for the qualification of practitioners. The old man was shameless, but Tang Fan could still put his face in his pocket and argue with him. With only a fuselage, the mecha is just a shell, and it can't be driven away, whether it is the operating system, the energy supply system, or the energy tank, the cockpit, or the maintenance cabin, they are all protected by copyright. If you don't give me anything, what's the point of me building a fuselage? Lan Yuan laughed. The mecha company acquired still has some copyrights? I will contact the military and give you the copyright of the standard mecha. I don't have any more. Lan Yuan is very straightforward and very single. Even if Tang Fan was so angry that his teeth itched, he had to admit it. You can't force them to death, right? A mecha company can't rely on such a series to support it. There are so many design drawings in the mecha design competition. Although many of them are not as good as the ancient martial arts series, they can still be used after some changes. No matter how stingy the old man Lan Yuan is, his face is still useful. If he comes forward, the copyright of the design drawings can be cheaper. Tang Fan was busy calculating, and Lan Yuan was not idle either. Since he wanted Tang Fan to run, he had to go against a giant like Zhang's mecha. He couldn't give him no benefits at all. Okay. I'll ask for you, but I can't guarantee the quality. After all, you are a character who has a Gu Wu mecha. You can't blame me if you are too picky. What else could Tang Fan do? Of course, he agreed reluctantly. The general direction is established, and then the small details are worked out. The old and the young talked back and forth for a whole hour. The general direction was finally established, and Tang Fan hung up the video unhappily. Swiping through a long list of unanswered video requests, Tang Fan couldn't help but narrow his eyes when he saw Song Si's name. There were rumors about him and Song Si, but only they knew that they were just a chef in a diner. At best, it was a relationship between a chef and a diner with a good relationship. What does it mean when a diner suddenly sends a video call request to a chef? Want to eat? Tang Fan doesn't think that Song Si, who is as free as a bird flying into the forest, will suddenly miss his cooking skills. Hello, Instructor Song. It is always right to greet politely as a person. Student Tang, you have been doing well recently. Song Si's words always sound like there is something else behind them. Tang Fan is not sure what Song Si means, so he can only laugh dryly and say ambiguously, it's because of life, isn't it? This sentence can be used for both offense and defense. Perfectly avoiding Song Si's verbal attack and leaving himself enough retreat options. Tang Fan praised his own wit. Facing such a slippery Tang Fan, Song Si felt that if he didn't get to the point, this guy could gossip with him for hours. Song Si simply gave up the small talk and asked indirectly, were you talking to Principal Lan just now? Facing Song Si's words, Tang Fan just felt relieved. Only when you have a direction and an attitude can you answer the question. Chapter 83 Origin. Yes. Principal Lan watched my live broadcast and praised my idea of starting a business. He actively helped me to develop ideas and attract resources. Now I have everything, but I don't have money. It's difficult. Tang Fan was the first to describe Lan Yuan's stingy character who would do anything except money in such a refreshing and refined way. Song Si laughed dumbly. But Tang Fan was also quite honest. He did not avoid his question and told him directly and frankly, starting a business is real. Lan Yuan also agreed and expressed his support. The idea of creating a company is clear, and the resources are also all over the place, except for money. This is asking for money in a roundabout way. As expected of Lan Yuan's student, the stingy character of asking for money is really inherited from him. Unfortunately, Song Si, is not rich. Instructor Song, although I am full and my family is not hungry, I am a person who gets a fixed salary, and I am not rich. Is this shirking? Tang Fan was a little confused about this person's thoughts, and didn't know how to start for a while. For a moment, the two of them fell into a brief, awkward silence. Just when Tang Fan was trying to find a topic, Song Si spoke first. Everyone knows Lan Yuan's temper. What can he promise you? The school's venture capital fund? Or the mecha company that the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy acquired many years ago? Bingo. All at once, all correct. It seems that Song Si's understanding of Lan Yuan is deeper than he thought. Or perhaps, these two foxes, one old and one young, have already communicated behind his back? Countless thoughts flashed through Tang Fan's mind. Knowing that many things could not be hidden from Song Si, Tang Fan simply chose to be honest. Principal Lan promised to get me a few professional qualifications, transfer the copyright of the internal components of the mecha company to me, and also get the copyright of the standard mecha for me. There is no more. Hearing Tang Fan's answer, Song Si sprayed out a mouthful of salty soda. He really didn't know whether to say that Lan Yuan was cunning or that Tang Fan was simple. That's it? You dare to start a company? Tang Fan noticed something was wrong and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Instructor Song, is there any problem? Song Si nodded. You know Lan Yuan's temper. He actually gave you a company for free. Of course there must be a reason. Tang Fan suddenly became nervous and pretended to listen attentively. I would like to hear more. Songsi was very satisfied with Tang Fan's respectful attitude, and said earnestly, you can save some money. That company was bought from Tangang by the Blue Sea Mecha Academy for $1. Not only does it not make money, but it also has to pay a certain amount of taxes every year. Lan Yuan is throwing a mess to you. Tang Fan also sprayed when he heard this. Did I hear you right? $1? And you have to pay taxes. Songsi nodded and continued, speaking of which, it's a coincidence. That mecha company is on Luoluo Star, called Tang's. So it seems like it has some connection with you. Although the taxes are not much, it's not something a poor student like you can afford. Luoluo Star? Tang's? Tang Fan couldn't help but narrow his eyes. It's not that he feels like they have a connection, but that they do. It's said that his unreliable father is from Luoluo Star. Tang Fan calmly asked. How could such a good company be sold for just $1? Songsi put on a gossipy face and said with a smile, this is a long story. The Tang family has a loving couple, a smart son, and a cute daughter. They can be considered happy. Until 17 years ago, when the youngest daughter of the Tang family deliberately hired a tutor to prepare for the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy, everything changed. His youngest daughter actually fell in love with the tutor. The Tang couple did not think highly of the tutor, and with a little obstruction, the tutor left Basel Star and went to the capital Star for development. Later, the tutor actually hooked up with Miss Zhang. After getting married, the first commercial sniping case made by the son-in-law of the Zhang family was the commercial sniping of the Tang family. This is also the cornerstone of the Zhang family's transformation from a metal supplier to the mecha manufacturing industry. Basel Star, Tang family, Zhang family. After hearing this, Tang Fan's heart buzzed and exploded. The young lady of the Zhang family, wouldn't she be called Zhang Awei? And the son of the Tang family, wouldn't he be called Tangang? Songsi gave a thumbs up and praised, Student Tang, you are so smart. Tang Fan, who was praised for his intelligence, was a little confused at the moment. If everything Songsi said was true, then he would have to reconsider some things. For example, his life experience. How many words did that damn Tangang say? Or, this instructor song. Tang Fan had doubts in his heart. But no matter what, taking over Tang's mecha, for him, has an extra layer of meaning. Does this company have any other problems? Tang Fan threw out the most worried problem. Songsi shook his head, that's not the case. The Blue Ocean Mecha Academy bought this company from Tangang for $1. At that time, the workers' wages and unemployment benefits were all in place, and the debts had been settled. However, everything in this company, from company qualifications to production equipment, is more than 10 years old. No one knows what it looks like now. You'd better be mentally prepared. Tang Fan breathed a sigh of relief and had a new understanding of Tangang. A man who would go bankrupt to place workers and pay off debts deserves respect, no matter if he is his biological father or not. Tang Fan made up his mind almost immediately. I wonder if Instructor Song is free to accompany me to Basel Star. Songsi raised his eyebrows. Why me? Tang Fan pursed his lips and smiled. A colonel of the alliance actually claimed that he was not rich. As a student, I have the obligation to show you a way to make money. Of course, the son of the alliance marshal and the identity of the alliance colonel is also a good shield and amulet. Songsi smiled when he heard it, narrowing his eyes into two crescents. I am very satisfied with this explanation. It's better to do it today than to wait for a day. I'll say hello to Lan Yuan and let Aden pick you up. Try to go and come back early to avoid delaying your studies. As soon as the voice fell, the doorbell of the dormitory rang. Songsi smiled and said, it should be Aden. Hurry up and open the door. I'll wait for you on Basel Star. Feelings, you have planned it long ago? If I don't nod, do you have a plan B? Songsi looked at Tang Fan's serious face and couldn't bear to tell this innocent girl that they not only had a plan B, but also a plan C and a plan D. After all, the metro is a major military secret and could not afford to lose it. Believe me, knowing the truth won't make you feel any better. So, you really have one? Tang Fan almost spit out a mouthful of blood. Those who scheme against others will always be schemed against. But, in the end, it's hard to let go. After hanging up the video unhappily, Tang Fan took heavy steps, sending messages to the four diners while opening the door for Aden. At this point, even though he knew it was a pit, he could only jump in. I hope that this pit is not deep enough to bury himself. Chapter 84 Bezel. Tang Fan took a deep breath and opened the door of the dormitory. A Tang's face, which could not be found in the crowd, appeared in front of Tang Fan. Tang, are you ready? Tang Fan smiled bitterly. I don't have anything, so what preparations do I need? Let's go. Go early and come back early. A Tang smiled after hearing this. Believe me, you will not regret your decision today. Tang Fan glanced at the face that was vivid because of the smile, and said meaningfully, I hope so. A Tang did not argue with Tang Fan. He took the leave note approved by Lan Yuan and left with Tang Fan quietly. Just like he came quietly. Basil Star is a habitable planet with spring all year round, and the temperature is kept at around 30 to 18 degrees all year round. Basil Star is not known for its mecha, but is famous in the Alliance for its specialty bezel. As soon as the small starship landed, a unique smell of basil came to the face, which made people feel refreshed. Everywhere you look, there are small and green basil. They were topped with bright little flowers, swaying in the wind, as if they were saying hello and welcoming. Tang Fan fell in love with this planet at once. Song-si had arrived a long time ago and was sitting in a restaurant tasting the local specialties. Seeing Tang Fan and Adam coming over, Song-si smiled and waved to the two of them, and handed the electronic menu to them. The basil baked eggs and tomato basil seafood pasta here are pretty good, try them. Adam obediently ordered these two dishes, and then handed the menu to Tang Fan. Tang Fan took a deep breath and ordered Thai prawn basil fried rice and sea salt basil fried chicken thighs. He silently put down the menu, sat opposite Song-si, and asked directly, is the establishment of a mecha company not only the idea of Principal Lan and the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, but also the idea of you and the military? Although Tang Fan used a question, his expression was quite firm. However, Song-si opposite him shook his head. No, you're wrong. This is not what the military wants, but what our expeditionary army wants. The expeditionary army is affiliated with the military, but it cannot fully represent the military. Song-si did not say the difference, but Tang Fan understood it all at once. But this matter does not need to be investigated in depth. For Tang Fan, there is not much difference between selling to the expeditionary army and the military. Principal Lan provided the qualifications and a shell company. What about you? Song-si raised the corner of his mouth slightly. All copyrights of standard mechas, the procurement plan of standard mechas for the expeditionary army, and employees. This resource is not less than what Lan Yuan gave. Especially the purchase plan of the expeditionary army, which can basically guarantee that Tang Fan's mecha company will not lose money after opening. However, Tang Fan did not agree with the matter of employees. You place the veterans here with me. When the time comes, will this company belong to me or your military? Song-si patted his chest and promised, the company is naturally yours. It's not that you need manpower, we also need to solve the problem of veterans' re-employment. We, the master and the apprentice, help each other, benefit each other, and promote each other. Tang Fan completely sneered at Song-si's statement. However, he started from scratch and had nothing. The people sent by Song-si at least had a clear path and belonged to the expeditionary army. If he were to recruit people himself, he would not know whose people would come. Although he suffered a loss, Tang Fan had to admit it. This is given to me by the expeditionary army. What about you, Instructor Song? We are master and apprentice, you can't just express your gratitude at all. Song-si almost spit out the pasta in his mouth when he heard this. Is he familiar with Tang Fan? He actually made such an unreasonable request to him? But why do the four words master and apprentice sound so familiar? It seems that he just said it? Song-si turned his head to look at Adam, and the look of help in his eyes was so clear that Adam couldn't pretend not to see it. Adam coughed softly and began to smooth things over. We are master and apprentice, so of course it's easy to talk about investment. Even brothers have to settle accounts clearly. We have to agree on the proportion, so as not to hurt the relationship between master and apprentice. When Song-si heard this, he nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, yes. What Adam said is also what I mean. How many shares in total? How many credit points per share? We have to make it clear. It's not good for anyone to lose money, right? Tang Fan looked at the two shameless people and wished he had never met them. Unfortunately, he could only think about it. Seeing the robot rolling over, Tang Fan simply shut up and ate his meal seriously. Not to mention, the unique flavor of basil is actually not bad. Tang Fan's eyebrows were curved and the corners of his mouth were raised. After finishing the meal quickly, Tang Fan had time to pay attention to Song Si. "Let's go see the company first," Tang Fan asked tentatively. Song Si nodded. "I thought so too. You have to know how bad the company is before you can make a comeback with all your heart." Seeing that the two had made up their minds, Ading resigned himself to scanning a public airship outside, acting as a driver, and sending the two ancestors to the company. Tang's Mecha is a native enterprise of Basel Star and the largest company on Basel Star, mainly producing mechas and mecha parts. The investment that year reached 10 billion credit points, covering an area of 30,000 acres, with more than 60,000 employees, an annual output of 2 million mechas and accessories, and the ability to continuously improve R&D design and mecha technical services. Tang's Mecha has established an interstellar map with Basel Star as the center and extending to all parts of the alliance. Such a behemoth was destroyed in an instant because of a love affair. Perhaps, it's not just a love affair. Tang Fan looked at the huge factory in front of him and asked, "Which side does Tang's Mecha stand on?" Song Si looked at Tang Fan with a teachable look and said meaningfully, "Tang Gang graduated from the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy, and his sister Tang Meng is also preparing to enter the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy." After the accident, Tang Gang sold Tang's Mecha to the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy for $1. "Which side do you think Tang's Mecha stands on?" Tang Fan suddenly realized and looked at Song Si. To put it bluntly, when Tang's Mecha was in the most difficult time, where were the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy and the Expeditionary Force? Song Si choked when he heard it. Tang Fan did not let him go, but added faintly, "If the Tang Group, which I am in charge of, also encountered the same problem, where would the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy and the Expeditionary Force be?" Remember the past and learn from it. Tang's past may very well be his future. He must give an explanation to Tang and himself. As soon as Atong opened his mouth to say something, Song Si stopped him. The demise of Tang was a fact, and the Blue Sea Mecha Academy and the Expeditionary Army were unscathed. Tang Fan had the right to ask for an explanation. Chapter 85 Tang Mangan. No one knows what will happen in the next second. The Tang family is a mecha manufacturing family of Li Luoxing. For some unknown reason, their descendants have never been very prosperous. When it comes to Tang Bink's generation, it is even worse. He is the only one left. For the wishes of his parents and the prosperity of the family, Tang Bink and his wife Zhuang Yuan have struggled for half their lives. Unfortunately, after working day and night, they only have a son and a daughter. The son is a few years older and named Tang Gang. The daughter is a few years younger and named Tang Meng. And then, because Zhuang Yuan was injured when she gave birth to the daughter, there was no more. The Tang family, which has been passed down for 5 generations, is no longer left with only one child, and Tang Bink is very satisfied. With both sons and daughters, he has become more and more active in expanding his business territory and is busy with social activities all day long. His son Tang Gang is the president of the Students' Union of Blue Ocean Mecha Academy. While working, he is also involved in the management of Tang's Mecha Manufacturing Company, and he is also busy. Only the daughter is left to accompany Zhuang Yuan, who is bedridden. Mrs. Zhuang had a daughter in her old age, and the little girl was so close to her that she naturally spoiled her. Fortunately, Tang Mangan was not spoiled, but grew up like other people's children. Tang Mangan was smart and clever, proficient in mecha design, good at classical literature, good at writing, and famous for his gukan. It was just that because she liked food, she looked a little rounder. Fortunately, her foundation was not bad. She was not a big beauty, but she was still beautiful. The lively and lovely Tang Mangan was only 16 years old, and she became a hot single unmarried young woman on Li Luoxing, attracting countless officials and wealthy sons. However, Tang Mangan was obsessed with studying, turning a blind eye to the pursuit of those sons, and only had her idol in her eyes, her own brother Tang Gang. In order to keep up with her brother's pace and successfully enter the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, Tang Mangan begged her brother to find a tutor for her. Tang Gang thought about it and arranged Willie Smith, Tang Bing's secretary and a top student who graduated from the first academy of the Alliance, to be with Tang Mangan. The Smith family, where Willie Smith's father Quinn Smith belongs, is also a mecha family. However, unlike the Tang family, the Smith family is prosperous and a large family. Quinn Smith alone married 4 wives, and Willie's mother was his 5th wife. The family members are large, with more than 18 brothers and sisters. This group of people do not have the fate of a golden branch and jade leaf, but have the disease of a golden branch and jade leaf. They are lazy, ignorant, and arrogant. When Willie was 3 years old, his honest mother finally saw through Quinn's nature and divorced. After dragging 4 children and barely living for 4 years, Willie's mother finally found a new partner. Remarriage is imperative. However, the new family cannot accommodate Willie and his 3 sisters. The 4 of them began to depend on each other. Willie grew up relying on social welfare subsidies and his sister's part-time work and study to support his family. Therefore, Willie cherishes his opportunity to study and performs exceptionally well. It is also because of this that Willie got the opportunity to intern at Tang's before he graduated. Willie Smith, a handsome, elegant, and resolute man, quickly won the love and trust of the Tang family. The noble and elegant Tang Mang became Willie's target. Tang Gang's arrangement was just what he wanted. Willie was like a peacock, constantly showing his handsomeness and erudition in front of Tang Mang. In addition to teaching, he often told Tang Mang some exotic and interesting stories. Tang Mang, who was locked by Mrs. Zhuang, could not withstand this. Soon, the talented man and the beautiful woman staged a teacher-student love behind the Tang family's back. But the high threshold of the Tang family made Willie Smith unable to cross. When Mrs. Zhuang learned that the two were in love, she sent someone to investigate Willie Smith's family background. Although she liked Willie very much, Willie's family background was really not up to par. The Tang family is a powerful figure in Li Luoxing. How could her beloved baby marry such a family? As the saying goes, the two families are not a good match, so Mrs. Zhuang was polite to Willie on the surface, but she resolutely forbade the two to have any contact behind their backs. Willie loves Tang Mang, and Mrs. Zhuang strictly forbade him, but he still pursued Tang Mang relentlessly. Mrs. Zhuang was furious when she learned about it, and asked her son Tang Gang to transfer Willie to Chitty Star. But Willie has Tang Mang in his heart, and he can't bear the longing, so he sneaked back to Lelo Star in a few days. At that time, Willie's third sister Anna Smith married to the capital star and lived a pretty good life. Knowing that her brother was excluded by the Tang family, she found a position for Willie on the capital star through her husband's relationship. Willie looked at Tang Mang affectionately and begged, "Little Mang, let's go to the capital star together to make a living? You know I can't let you go. I will definitely succeed." Looking at Willie's face full of infatuation and expectation, Tang Mang was in pain and entanglement. She was very conflicted. On the one hand, she didn't want to make her mother sad, and on the other hand, she was also full of yearning for love and marriage in her heart, and she couldn't bear to leave the man she loved deeply in front of her. After thinking it over, she finally got rid of her feelings and gave him an anonymous credit card and some nutritional supplements. She gave them to Willie. "You should go by yourself. I will wait for you here," Willie said disappointedly and moved. "I really thank you. These are just for me." After the separation, the two looked at each other from afar, missing each other endlessly. Tang Mang was looking forward to and waiting for Willie's news. However, men learn to forget when they have power and money. After Willie arrived at the capital star, he developed rapidly. He was surrounded by people and beauties all day long with high official positions and high salaries, and Tang Mang became a passing cloud. At a cocktail party 3 months later, Willie fell in love at first sight with Zhang Awei, the young and beautiful daughter of Zhang Duo, a metal merchant in the capital star, and they made a vow to each other. When Tang Mang learned that Willie had married someone else, he was heartbroken and fell seriously ill. After recovering from the illness, Tang Mang announced to his family that he wanted to go out and relax. Tang Bingjian and Zhuang Yuan discussed it and reluctantly agreed, and arranged a trip to the gourmet star for Tang Mang. Who knew that the good girl Tang Mang would rebel for once, submitting an entry application to the capital star without telling her parents, and changing her starship ticket. At first, Tang Mang would report to Tang Bingjian and his wife that she was safe. Starting from the 4th day, Tang Bingjian and his wife lost the news of Tang Mang. The couple panicked and quickly contacted their eldest son. With the efforts of the whole family, they soon found out the whereabouts of Tang Mang. Tang Gang didn't care about the upcoming graduation ceremony, and used all the power he could to finally bring his sister back from the capital star. However, at that time, Tang Mang was not only unconscious, but also pregnant. The eldest daughter of the Tang family will always live at the age of 16 with mixed feelings. Chapter 86 Shell Company. 15 years ago, 3 major events happened in the alliance. First, the former president of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, Lan Yuan's father, Master Lan Xiaoding, suddenly disappeared while exploring a relic. Second, the wife and children of the Expeditionary Army commander, Alliance Marshal Song Yuanshi, That is, me and my mother Ms. Yao Shu, were kidnapped by space pirates on the way to visit my grandparents. Third, Ollie Smith successfully sniped the Tang's mecha and formed the Zhang's mecha. These 3 events happened within a month. Tang Fan was not stupid, and immediately understood the deep meaning of Song Si's words. You suspect that this is an organized and premeditated crime, Song Si sneered. It's not a suspicion, it's just that the evidence is not sufficient. Tang Fan narrowed his eyes and didn't speak. He understood something, but he was a little more confused. He needed to think about it carefully. According to Song Si, Tang Gang was the successor of the Tang's mecha on Luo Star, and had a beautiful girlfriend, Zhao Jingshu, but he suddenly disappeared when graduation was approaching. The main reason was probably because of national hatred and family feuds. To be precise, it was a family feud caused by national hatred, the dispute between hawks and doves. A man named Willie Smith, after playing with the feelings of Tang Gang's sister, Tang Meng, hooked up with Zhang Awei and borrowed the power of Zhang's family. When Song Yuanshi of the Expeditionary Army and Lan Yuan of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy were unable to split up, he commercially sniped Tang's mecha. This matter sounded like a third-rate story, but Tang Fan actually believed it. It was not because of Song Si's handsome face and sincere eyes, but because of the Ziwei medal handed to him by his unreliable father, the eyes that wanted to say something but stopped, and the behavior of trying every means to squeeze him into the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Tang Gang was so convinced that the Blue Sea Mecha Academy and the Expeditionary Army would definitely protect him. It was because they owed the Tang family. His unreliable father put the last and most important chips on him. This, damn, fatherly love. Tang Fan looked up at the sky, trying not to let his tears flow. No matter what the truth is, since my last name is Tang, since you have given me all your love and chips, then I am Tang Fan. I am your baby. I don't need your protection. I can protect myself. I have grown up, and I also want to be your pride and your support. Whether it is Willie Smith or Zhang's mecha, as long as you want, I can help you defeat them. If one day doesn't work, 2 days. If 1 year doesn't work, 2 years. We can do it. Tang Fan took a deep breath and entered the account and password given to him by Lan Yuan. The door of the company, which had been sealed for more than 10 years, finally opened slowly. Tang Fan took the lead and walked in. As the dust rose, a clear footprint suddenly appeared on the ground. Tang Fan couldn't help frowning, and after replacing an energy block for the old model security robot, he turned on the start button. Fortunately, the security robot actually started successfully. After verifying the identity of Tang Fan and his party, the security robot honestly handed over the company's regional distribution map. 3 office buildings, 18 staff dormitories, a research and development center, 20 factories, 80 warehouses. After all the twists and turns, this industry in his hands is really not small. Similarly, to resume production, startup capital is definitely indispensable. He is afraid that the living expenses and training expenses he has worked so hard to earn will soon be gone. Even if Brad and Zhao Fan, together with George and Qin Yi's savings are added together, I am afraid that they will not make any waves. Tang Fan looked at his light brain and locked his eyes on a certain place. Let's take a look at the warehouse first. In case he can find any leaks, he may have his startup capital. The idea is beautiful, but it is realistic. 80 warehouses are empty, cleaner than the rice bowl that Brad has licked. Tang Fan's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Song Si patted Tang Fan on the shoulder and comforted him. Back then, Tang's mecha had more than 60,000 workers. It is not an easy task to properly resettle them, everyone understands the truth, but... Tang Fan took a deep breath and tried to suppress his emotions. Tong asked cautiously, how about we go and have a look at the factory? Tang Fan nodded and walked towards the factory in silence. His steps were a little heavy. He looked like he was walking towards the guillotine, which made Song Si laugh. It's just that there is no material in the warehouse. Is it that serious? Tong looked at Tang Fan with concern and kicked Song Si stealthily. Song Si quickly restrained his expression, but his shrugging shoulders betrayed him deeply. The situation of the factory was better than Tang Fan expected. Although more than 10 years had passed, the production line was still in a usable state. Although the model was a little old, it was still much better than the junky stuff at Laobu's place. Tang's steel is not too wasteful. Song Si, who was trying to hold back his laughter, looked at Tang Fan's suddenly relaxed expression and suddenly couldn't laugh anymore. Do you know this stuff? Tang Fan glanced at him. I have a little knowledge of it. The eyes of Song Si and Tang looking at Tang Fan changed, becoming more serious and rigorous. Tang Fan didn't plan to say much. He patted his dusty hands and said lightly, "Since we are here, let's take a look at the office building and dormitory." When they walked into the empty office building and dormitory, when Tang Fan showed an expression of as expected, Song Si and Adam felt uncomfortable. Tang Fan said to himself, "This is good. It is fireproof and theft-proof, and there is no need to throw away garbage. There is nothing wrong with this." Song Si and Adam stood behind Tang Fan and smiled bitterly. Before Song Si and Adam could react, Tang Fan had already started to attack the company's few assets, the security robot. He actually modified it and equipped the security robot with a vacuum cleaner, and asked it to clean for him. But this guy still said something like recycling waste and multifunctional. In other words, robots can't speak. If they could, they would have drowned you with spit. However, after removing the dust, the company looks much better. Tang Fan was satisfied watching the security robot doing the work of a nanny. He was very satisfied with his one-time modification, perfectly integrating the two functions of security and nanny on an old robot. After slowly closing the door of the company, Tang Fan turned his head and looked at Song Si and Tang seriously. "I have a rough idea about the investment. When I have sorted it out, I will send it directly to you two. Please take care of me and give me your advice." Tang laughed dryly and waved his hand. "I can't help much with things like starting a company." "Don't be so polite." Compared with Tang's simplicity, Song Si seemed a little shameless. "When the company needs people, give me a call. We have nothing there, but a lot of people. In addition, don't forget about a subscription. You promised to make a fortune with your instructor." Tang Fan nodded with a smile and said yes obediently. "The funding gap is huge. Instead of giving it to others, it is better to give it to someone you know and trustworthy. If Dr. Song thinks it's good, you can buy more. Since we are a master and apprentice, I will charge a lower price." Song Tuong was stunned for a moment. From then on, Adam was particularly repulsive to the words master and apprentice. When he heard these four words, he always felt a chill on his back. Although, the Tang's mecha he invested in for the first time in his life did not cheat him, but brought him huge profits. Of course, this is all later. Chapter 87 Shares. After visiting the company, Tang Fan bought a slightly trimmed basil landscape potted plant as a souvenir and happily returned to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. The first thing he did when he returned was to find Lan Yuan to handle the company transfer procedures. Seeing Lan Yuan's painful expression after paying a large amount of taxes, Tang Fan expressed his great pleasure. The second thing was to count the company's assets. Although Tang Fan had seen all the tangible assets on Basil Star, he didn't know about the intangible assets. You don't know until you see it, and you'll be shocked when you see it. Tang's mecha actually has the qualification to produce black-level mechas, which alone is a considerable fortune. In addition, there are patent licenses for tens of thousands of spare parts and hundreds of mechas. Although the mecha era is changing with each passing day, thanks to the fact that Zao's mecha has not been updated for more than 2 years, these antique-level mechas are still useful, not to mention those mecha spare parts. Tang Fan's eyes lit up and he stretched out his hand to Lan Yuan with a smile. "Principal Lan, where are the copyrights and venture capital funds for the standard mechas we agreed on?" Lan Yuan looked at the little girl in front of him, and his heart was so blocked. He finally understood what the 4 words "take advantage of every opportunity" meant today. As expected of that guy's child, he was just as shameless as ever. Lan Yuan angrily turned on the light computer and transferred all the standard mecha patents he had just obtained to Tang Fan, and then said viciously, "You haven't even submitted an application, and you still want to ask me for startup funds? I tell you, not to mention no way, there is no window." Tang Fan silently withdrew his hand and curled his lips. "As the head of a school, you can't even do such a small thing. What use is you?" Lan Yuan's mentality completely collapsed. "You passed?" Tang Fan shrugged. "Then I'll go back and write an application." After a pause, Tang Fan suddenly turned his head and looked at Lan Yuan seriously. "The company needs to raise funds recently, and you can subscribe to original shares. Do you want to come in?" The anger on Lan Yuan's face disappeared, and he reached out and patted Tang Fan on the shoulder. "Wait until you have decided on a plan and show it to me. Look at my coffin book. How many shares can I buy?" An inexplicable emotion surged in Tang Fan's heart, and his eyes were a little sour, but he still raised a big smile, nodded to Lan Yuan, and then turned and left. He was busy, and had to go back to fool his 4 diners. But as soon as Tang Fan walked into the dormitory, His 4 friends were already coming towards him. Brad scratched his head embarrassedly. Afan, you know I'm not good at talking. Anyway, my money is all with you, and I'll give it all to you. You just need to be responsible for feeding me at regular times and places. Zhao Fan handed over his credit card with a smile. We haven't known each other for a long time, but I really treat you as my own brother. I don't have big ambitions, I just want to be treated the same as Brad, and have 3 meals a day. George rubbed Qin Yi's head, and then under Qin Yi's glare, he walked over with 2 credit cards. This is the living expenses for Qin Yi and me. You will have to work hard for the next 6 years. Please take care of it, refund the excess, and don't make up for the lack. Tang Fan was not polite, he took it and connected it to the optical computer. Wow, the dividends from this gambling game were not reduced by a single credit point, all in it. Not to mention 6 years of living expenses, there is no problem eating for another 6 years. Tang Fan felt his eyes turn red, his nose sour, and tears filled his eyes instantly. George quickly raised his hands to prove his innocence. Don't touch me, I didn't do anything. The emotion that Tang Fan had just brewed disappeared in an instant, and he wanted to kick this guy. Before Tang Fan made a move, Qin Yi had already started. The angry little girl snatched the credit card from George's hand and kicked her childhood sweetheart. Then, she handed this anonymous credit card to Tang Fan with both hands. This is my pocket money, I'm investing in you, but I plan to rely on this small treasury to eat all over the league. Don't let me lose it. Tang Fan hummed heavily, with a bit of nasal sound. He never expected that Zhao Fan, George and Qin Yi would stand up at this moment and spend all their credit points to help him. Even if they all made a few requests. But Tang Fan appreciated this. After all, it is easy to add icing on the cake, but it is difficult to help someone in need. Okay, I'll give you all the shares, and you can get dividends every year. You can take the money and travel all over the alliance and eat all kinds of food. The scene was so beautiful that Qin Yi was delighted and nodded repeatedly. Looking at the dazed eyes of the foodie, Tang Fan was also full of energy. But when she transferred all the funds into her account, Tang Fan was embarrassed. After deducting the 1 million pocket money that Qin Yi planned to use to buy shares, he only had 5 million credit points. With this little startup capital, he could do anything. No. He still had a startup capital. Lan Yuan promised him that as long as he wrote an application, he would approve the startup fund for him. Although the startup fund of the entire Blue Sea Mecha Academy was only 1 million, a mosquito leg was still meat, and he didn't mind it. He did it right away. Tang Fan used his intelligence and wrote a 10,000-word startup fund application. Lan Yuan promised him, and he did. 3 seconds later, the approval came down. A full 500,000. That's half of the school's entrepreneurship fund. Tang Fan was satisfied. 5.5 million credit points, plus company qualifications, plus patent licenses for tens of thousands of spare parts, patent licenses for hundreds of mechas, standard mecha copyrights, and the design copyrights of her own ancient martial arts mechas. Tang Fan can also be called a woman with 30 million credit points. In order to gain control, Tang Fan plans to sell 1,000 shares of equity, 30,000 credit points per share. Miss Qin Yi, as the first antique to buy equity, holds 33. There are still 967 shares. I wonder how much Lan Yuan, Songxi and Adan, who have already won over, can sell? With a try-it mentality, Tang Fan sent the information he had sorted out to Lan Yuan, Songxi and Adan's optical computers respectively. After a while, Tang Fan's optical computer received 3 remittances. Songxi transferred 6 million and subscribed for 200 shares, Adan transferred 3 million and subscribed for 100 shares. What surprised Tang Fan the most was that Lan Yuan, the old stingy man who claimed that he had no money, actually paid 3 million and subscribed for 100 shares. In order to ensure the interests of shareholders, Tang Fan even personally sent a video call request to Lan Yuan. Soon, the video call was connected, and it was not Lan Yuan's familiar face that appeared, but Director Fang Mian of the finance department. Director Fang smiled and waved to Tang Fan. Mr. Tang, starting a business is something worth encouraging, you must work hard. After that, he hung up the video call. Tang Fan thought he had dialed the wrong number and confirmed it twice. It was not until George silently explained that Fang Mian and Lan Yuan were a couple that Tang Fan suddenly realized it. It turned out that Lan Yuan had no money, and this was the reason. Chapter 88 Entrepreneurship. Tang Fan, who only had 3 customers who were fools, was in tears as he looked at the 567 shares in his hand. Starting a business is too difficult. Just when Tang Fan was at a loss, his optical brain started to ring again, and 3 more deposits came in one after another. One was 1.5 million credit points, from Go Xiaogu. One was 3 million credit points, from Li Bangsha. Another 990,000 credit points came from his father's rumored girlfriend, Zhao Jingshu, who he was not familiar with. What does this mean? Tang Fan, who didn't know what was going on, was stunned for a moment. Then, Songxi sent another video request. As soon as Tang Fan clicked it, Songxi couldn't wait to ask, how many shares are left? I want them all. 384 shares, 11.52 million, are you sure? Songxi laughed. I brought out the card that our Song Yuanshu left with Ms. Yatoshu. With his salary, he has saved for so many years, 11.52 million should be enough. This kid actually stole his father's salary card? If he is found out by Marshal Song, he will probably be punished by family discipline. Does Marshal Song know that you are so naughty? Tang Fan thought so and said it so bluntly. As soon as he said this, Tang Fan felt a murderous aura. Looking closely, Songxi's face changed. His face turned ashen. Whether I am naughty or not, Marshal Song may not know. But I have learned from your naughtiness. This was the first time in her life that someone called her naughty. Although Tang Fan could not agree, she still rubbed her nose and admitted it. Who let the person in front of her be her biggest investor and partner? Admitting a coward is not a loss of face. Instructor Song is right. I am the naughtiest in the whole alliance. Otherwise, how could I have the wild idea of starting a mecha company from scratch? Songxi rolled his eyes silently after hearing this. This guy, he just knows how to win sympathy. However, he really fell for it. 3 seconds later, Tang Fan received a transfer of 11.52 million credit points from Songxi. Tang Fan changed his cowardly look and smiled happily. Instructor Song, can you do me another favor? Shameless, that's what I mean. Songxi was extremely helpless. Tell me what you think. This guy is too deceptive. We have to be on guard. Tang Fan didn't care, and said with a smile, I wonder if you know any metal suppliers? We pay on delivery, and we will never default. Songxi raised his eyebrows. Are you going to start work now? He thought that no matter what, Tang Fan would have to find a few close friends to plan it out. Unexpectedly, this guy is so single. Tang Fan laughed. With food in hand, there is no need to panic. I always like to plan ahead. I don't like being controlled by others. It's uncomfortable. Songxi pursed his lips. The procurement plan for the standard mecha of the expeditionary force is in October every year, and the materials are directly allocated by the military. Tang Fan understood immediately. As a colonel of the expeditionary force, Songxi only saw the mecha and never saw the raw materials. Just when Tang Fan's heart sank to the bottom, Songxi actually spoke again. However, I know a few friends whose families are doing related businesses, and I can help you ask. Don't breathe so hard when you speak. It's so scary. Tang Fan stared at Songxi's face that had succeeded in a prank, and dared not say anything. He would record this account with Songxi. Find a time to breathe hard and scare him. After 1,000 twists and turns in his mind, Tang Fan still said sweetly, Thank you, Instructor Song. The most important thing for a person is politeness. Seeing Tang Fan's respectful attitude, Songxi couldn't help but give him a few pointers. In previous years, the procurement plan for the standard mecha of the expeditionary army was all from Tang's, and after Tang's closed down, it was transferred to Zhao's. This time, although the expeditionary army has selected you, but Songxi only said half of the words, but Tang Fan understood it all. If the Tang's mecha has no name and no surname, it will be a quibble, then it is certain. Even if they have a name and many people are watching them, if something goes wrong, the Tang family will probably be finished. The most urgent thing is to make the Tang family famous. I understand this. Seeing that Tang Fan understood everything, Songxi breathed a sigh of relief. Although you claim to have 30 million in assets, we all know how much water there is in it. With your limited funds, if there is any problem with the procurement plan of the expeditionary army's standard mecha, let alone a delay of half a year or a year, even if it is just a month, you may not be able to hold on. Therefore, you must not only make your name known in a short period of time, but also try to accumulate funds. The old man still has 6 million in his card. I might as well transfer it all to you, and count it as a personal loan from me. As a master and apprentice, I won't ask you for interest or anything, but you can't let me hold the principal for you. Tang Fan took a deep look at SYNOPSIS. Don't worry. As long as you get me a stable supplier of raw materials, I guarantee that I will return you the principal and interest in 1 year. SYNOPSIS raised his eyebrows, so confident. Tang Fan hooked his lips. You may have forgotten that I am also a new internet celebrity with 100,000 online viewers and countless clicks to replay. People who want to sell me mechas are lining up. As long as there are raw materials, I can start work at any time. Limited to 10 mechas a day. SYNOPSIS also smiled a little. Hunger marketing? That's a good idea. Tang Fan smiled. I'm just following the public opinion. SYNOPSIS held his forehead. You are really good at climbing up the ladder, Tang Fan said modestly. It's just so-so, but after that, both of them laughed. SYNOPSIS happily transferred the remaining 6 million and turned to contact the raw material supplier for Tang Fan. Tang Fan also turned on the optical computer and dialed a familiar number. Old Boo, give me some raw materials. Looking at Tang Fan's pretty little face and thinking about the bastard things he had done, Old Boo couldn't put on a good face. Little bastard, you eat everything from me, and you still want to share the raw materials? Not to mention no way, there's no window, Tang Fan said. Oh, in this case, I can only discuss it with the boss's wife. I don't know if the boss's wife is using the household robot well. When Old Boo, who was about to hang up the phone, heard this, he quickly released the hang-up button. This guy can't do anything else but use small favors to please the old woman at home. If this guy really asks the old woman for something, it won't just be a matter of sharing some raw materials. Who knows, the old woman who is fooled by the trick will directly give the raw materials to this guy. With a previous experience, Lao Bu, who is afraid of a reversal, asked angrily, how much do you want to share? Tang Fan counted with his fingers and asked a lion. First, let's have 100 sets of purple level mechas. Lao Bu took a breath. You are kidding me. Do you know that privately building more than 5 mechas is a crime, and Tang Fan has already built 4 mechas in front of so many spectators? Rebuilding? Do you really think the Alliance law is a decoration? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 8 points. Tang Fan chuckled and waved the company's qualifications in his hand. I'm not doing this privately, I'm opening a company openly. Lao Bu looked at the familiar company qualifications in Tang Fan's hand, with the word Tangs on it, and couldn't help but blushing. Emotionally it's one thing, and in practice it's another. No matter how deep his feelings for Tangs are, he still has to eat. 30 million, no bargaining. Transfer the money first, and I'll deliver the goods to you right away. Tang Fan's wallet was immediately deflated after he got the startup capital and transferred 30 million to Lao Bu. Before Tang Fan had time to feel distressed, Lao Bu had already driven the starship and personally delivered the batch of raw materials to Tang Fan. One hand handed over the money, the other hand delivered the goods. Looking at the raw materials and thinking about the price of the purple level mechas sold by Zao's Mecha, Tang Fan immediately smiled. At 8 o'clock that evening, Tang Fan once again started live broadcasting, and immediately showed the qualifications of the company and the qualifications of the practitioners, and happily shared with the audience the good news that the Ancient Warrior Mecha could be customized. Although it was limited to 10 units per day, you could customize your favorite purple level mecha for 500,000 yuan, and the live broadcast room was still abuzz. Tang Fan specially set up an order post on the Star Network, and in the 2 hours of the live broadcast, it directly built 700,000 floors. Although many people came to watch the fun, it was enough to make Tang Fan popular from the live broadcast room to the Star Network, and then to the entire alliance. The top 3 hot searches on the Star Network that day were Tang Fan, Ancient Warrior Mecha, and limited sales of new mecha. That's right. Tang Fan, a little-known little man, contracted the top 3 hot searches on the Alliance Star Network. Tang Fan and his Ancient Warrior Mecha were completely popular. The Ancient Warrior Mecha, which was limited to 10 units per day, had orders scheduled for 3 years later. This was because the order post had reached the upper limit stipulated by the Star Network. The whole network was scrambling to give Tang Fan money. What kind of magical operation is this? Everyone doesn't understand, and some people don't understand. But SYNOPSIS knows that the burden on him is heavier. As the son of a marshal and a colonel of the Alliance, Song-si has never been afraid of difficulties. On the contrary, he likes challenges. Cats have their own ways, and mice have their own ways. In less than 24 hours, Song-si contacted 7 suppliers of raw materials for mechas. Although the supply cannot be stable, it can also solve the urgent problem. Seeing that the situation is somewhat uncontrollable, Tang Fan once again wielded a hoe and dug into Lao Bu's corner. This time, he didn't ask Lao Bu for raw materials, but directly poached people from Lao Bu. Moreover, he poached the one he was most familiar with, Brad's father, William Smith. What kind of friendship does William have with Tang Fan? As soon as Tang Fan swung the hoe, William threw himself into Tang Fan's arms, and went to Basel Star with his family to make mecha parts for Tang Fan. Although it is a bit difficult for one person to manage a production line, it is not impossible. But Tang Fan became popular throughout the alliance, and the live broadcast hit rate exceeded 100 million. After the audience saw the mechas turned from paper into reality, and the actual robot test results. When everyone was boiling. When the call for opening another order post resounded throughout the Star Network. When Tang Fan, who was forced, could only open another post on the Star Network and add an order. Even if Tang Fan solemnly stated that all the mechas in this post must wait until he is free during the winter and summer vacations, William, who was under a surge in production pressure, had to protest to Tang Fan. After all, in less than 7 days, the number of new posts exploded again. The order for 10,800 mechas turned into 21,600, which would make anyone crazy. What could Tang Fan, who was in pain and happiness, do? Of course, he asked Song-si for help. Soon, a team of veterans headed to Basel Star from the Expeditionary Army Military District Hospital. 3 days later, William, who taught the veterans how to operate the production line, finally changed from a simple manual laborer to a mental laborer. You only need to supervise and inspect the quality, and you don't need to operate the production line. It's so pleasant. Mecha parts are arriving in Tang Fan's hands one after another. Tang Fan can finally fulfill his promise and start taking orders. Contact the audience, assemble the mecha, and send it out. Tang Fan, who is in pain and happy, is busy like a hard-working little bee. The first batch of customized mechas soon arrived in the hands of all the orderers. Among them, there is an ID called Mecha Collector, who is actually an internet celebrity. His real name is Lu Tao. He is a rich second generation and is keen on collecting various mechas. The mechas in their family are enough to open a mecha museum. Lu Tao talks a lot and is keen on chatting in the live broadcast room, interacting with the audience in a series of ways, and enthusiastically answering the audience's questions about mechas. In other words, this guy is showing off his wealth and popularizing mecha knowledge with everyone, giving tips on buying mechas and using mechas, and getting fans. Not for money, just for fun. However, this guy's unconventional unsharp commentary style has really become popular, and he has become a big shot with hundreds of millions of fans, known as the master of mecha bitch identification. He used dozens of trumpets to grab a fiery red gun god mecha holding a long spear. As soon as he got it, he couldn't help showing it off. First, he complained about Tang Fan's extremely simple packaging. Yes. In Lu Tao's eyes, traditional express packaging is extremely simple. In fact, Lu Tao also had a lot of complaints about the space buckle for storing mechas, but he held back his mouth because of the Chinese painting of peony hand painted by Tang Fan himself, and only mentioned that the space buckle had too small memory and could not accommodate too many weapons and equipment. Then, he couldn't wait to take the price from the space buckle. The camera pulled into the mecha from far to near, and every detail from head to toe was in full view. Finally, it fell on the joints. As a mecha collector, Lu Tao clearly knows that the weakness of the mecha lies in its fragile joints. However, the mecha in front of him, while considering the cool appearance, also hides all kinds of joints very well, and the details of the joints are handled perfectly. As picky as Lu Tao is, he couldn't find any thorns. He could only say unhappily. In terms of appearance alone, I can give it an 8. Don't look at it as only 8 points. This is the highest score Lu Tao has given to purple level mechas so far. As soon as this was said, Lu Tao's live broadcast room exploded. This is not the style of your mecha bitch appraiser, brother mecha. You didn't take bribes? 8 points? What a fairy appearance. My brother's blown up. Even if there's a bag of scum inside, I have to buy it for my brother's 8 points. Lu Tao glanced at the barrage and curled his lips. This is a world that values appearance? Haha, you don't look at the face, And your first step is to score people's appearance? Men, haha. Chapter 90 Distress. Although he complained, Lu Tao's hands were not idle. He had taken out a handheld detector and pointed it at the gun god mecha. After scanning from head to toe, the instrument flashed a purple light, which gradually deepened to form a beautiful purple-red color. Purple level peak, Lu Tao exclaimed in surprise, and the tail tone was obviously octave higher. It's not that he is narrow-minded and has never seen a purple level peak mecha. It's that in recent years, the price of mecha has been changing with each passing day. For a custom mecha of 500,000, it is good to have a purple level entry level. Being able to reach the purple level peak is completely the conscience of the industry. Not to mention anything else, just the price-performance ratio of reaching the purple level peak with 500,000 crushes all mechas of the same level. In an instant, there was only one voice left in Lu Tao's live broadcast room, bye. No matter how sharp-tongued Lu Tao was, facing this cost-effective mecha, he could only say, the cost-effectiveness is 10. This mecha is worth waiting in line for 3 years. The premise is that you can buy it. After all, I used 64 small accounts and only got 2. I have to wait for another 18 months for the other assassin mecha. Lu Tao paused and continued, add one more item, the difficulty of purchase is 10. The highest score, no rebuttal, you are the anchor, you want to add items, you want to give 10 points, you have the final say. Lu Tao shook the recording equipment. Next, it's our valuation time. With a rustling sound, Lu Tao successfully entered the interior of the mecha. The spacious and bright cockpit and maintenance cabin immediately came into view, and Lu Tao couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Different from the Zao's mecha, which wronged the mecha repairman and made the mecha pilot successful. The cockpit and maintenance cabin of this gun god mecha maintain the traditional double cabin balanced design of Tang's mecha 16 years ago. A part of the space for weapons and equipment was sacrificed to achieve a good driving experience. This approach has obvious advantages and disadvantages. I have explained it in detail when analyzing Tang's mecha and Zao's mecha, so I won't repeat it here. Lu Tao sat down in the cockpit, moved his hands and feet, and quickly operated on the operating table. Tang Fan demonstrated the basic 32 mecha driving styles in the live broadcast room. Lu Tao also did it smoothly, not much worse than Tang Fan. The barrage in the live broadcast room was, double-click 666. You want someone else's mecha, and you also want someone else's operation shower. What's annoying is not that others are richer than you, but that others are rich and better than you. After Lu Tao showed off his mecha operation, he didn't forget to comment. The operating system of this mecha is based on the Tang's mecha T58 operating system, and is improved by using the latest R8 operating system of the standard mecha. Although the T58 operating system is an operating system from more than 10 years ago, it is less sensitive than the Z37 of the Zao's mecha, but its stability advantage cannot be replaced by the Z37. While preserving the stability of the T58, adding some R8 functions, although there is a suspicion of opportunism, it is still very practical. In terms of energy supply, this mecha uses the Q85-3 energy supply system and matches the E585 energy tank. This combination is very energy-saving. Lu Tao paused and concluded, how to say it. Although this mecha is suspected of being old wine in a new bottle, it can be said to be very good compared to the Zao's mecha's behavior of not launching new models for more than 2 years, and the bad behavior of the mecha's high price. The most important thing is that its operation fluency is also very good, and the cost performance is really high. If it is not too difficult to buy, it must be my only recommendation among the purple level mechas. Just when everyone thought the live broadcast was about to end, Lu Tao spoke again. One last reminder. Dear viewers, do not try to dismantle this mecha. Because I have found more than 12 anti-disassembly and anti-piracy designs in it. If you forcibly dismantle this mecha, you will definitely lose 500,000 credit points. Finally, a small advertisement. If there is a viewer who is lucky enough to buy the Swordsman mecha and the Sword God mecha and is interested in transferring them, please contact me privately. The optical computer number of my studio is. If you are serious, please do not disturb. Lu Tao has many more fans than Tang Fan. This wave of strong recommendations instantly increased Tang Fan's popularity and the value of the ancient warrior mecha. Even the greetings when everyone meets have changed. From have you eaten, to did you grab the ancient warrior mecha, even Tang Fan himself did not expect to become famous in this way. But Tang Fan was not doing his job selling mechas, while still being able to pull his professional grades to the top of the list and successfully win a scholarship, which was also unexpected. Yes. At the final exam, Tang Fan once again won the championship with full marks. Think about how he can build and sell mechas, cook and feed a group of people in one day, and still win the top spot and get a scholarship. The vast majority of students at the Blue Sea Mecha Academy are jealous. The children of other people's families are so dazzling. They are beautiful, can cook, study, and make money. Except for being stingy, they have no shortcomings. If my mother knew that she had such a classmate, schoolmate. Just thinking about that scene, suddenly I don't want to go home for summer vacation. Except for some people. For example, Brad, who has long been immune to Tang Fan, heard that Basil Star has nice scenery and special food is especially delicious. As soon as the exam was over, he couldn't wait to go to Basil Star for a trip. For example, Zhao Fan, who is also at the top of the list and is immune to Tang Fan's excellence, specially applied to his parents and Mr. Zhao, and followed Brad to Basil Star to work and experience life. For example, George and Kin Yi, who are also at the top of the list, went home to accompany the parents after blackmailing Tang Fan for 3 pots of beef jerky. As for Tang Fan himself, his unreliable father was still hanging around somewhere, and he was alone at school and the company anyway, so he simply stayed at school. He cooked a meal from time to time, shared it with Lan Yuan and Fang Mian, and asked a few questions about mechas. His life was leisurely and comfortable. Not everyone can get the treatment of being a private tutor for the principal. Tang Fan's progress was also rapid. The Gun God Mecha was improved on the basis of Tang's Mecha T58 system, using the latest R8 system of standard mechas. Half a month later, when Tang Fan made the Sword God Mecha, he was able to perfectly integrate the 2 operating systems, while ensuring the stability of the mecha, while increasing the agility by 20%. This learning ability, let alone the person who got the Sword God Mecha, even Lan Yuan was a little surprised. Another half-month passed. When Tang Fan finally increased his agility to 50%, the swordsman and assassin mechas finally appeared. So far, the design and manufacture of the 4 mechas in the Ancient Warrior Mecha series have been completed. Although it is not yet perfect, Tang Fan is already very satisfied. Chapter 91 Improvement. Tang Fan, who had completed the design of the Ancient Warrior Mecha, finally watched the Lu Tao live broadcast incident that was widely discussed on the internet under George's reminder. Lu Tao's live broadcast and the joyful barrage made Tang Fan smile. As a person who knows how to repay kindness, Tang Fan naturally couldn't remain indifferent after knowing this situation. It's impossible to make a profit at a loss. But he contacted Lu Tao secretly and sent him the assassin mecha that Lu Tao ordered in advance. Tang Fan was still okay. Lu Tao is also a sensible person. This time, after receiving the mecha, he actually held back. It wasn't until he found a swordsman mecha somewhere else that he started live broadcasting again. Although he got the assassin mecha in advance by secretly operating a line, Lu Tao was still not polite when commenting. His words were so sharp that he brought up the difficulty of ordering the Ancient Warrior mecha and complained for 10 minutes. The resentment was quite big. However, it was precisely because of his performance that he successfully aroused everyone's empathy. The number of people in the live broadcast room increased rapidly, and the barrage was full of complaints, which pushed Tang Fan and her ancient martial arts mecha to another new height. In the second-hand mecha market, Tang Fan's ancient martial arts mecha directly doubled, reaching the point where it was hard to find one. That was all small money, and Tang Fan saw that he couldn't get it, and his eyes were drooling. But even if he was greedy, Tang Fan knew what he could do and what he couldn't do. The brand of the ancient martial arts mecha that he had finally established could not be ruined in his own hands. Before the mechas and the 2 posts were completed, he could not do anything. However, he was happy to do it. Although Tang Fan could do nothing except assembling the ancient martial arts mecha, he could do a lot of things with the deposit he received. For example, stabilize the 7 metal retailers that Song Si contacted. For example, receive a group of veterans from Song Si. For example, produce a batch of standard mecha parts for emergency use. Money is not everything, but without money, nothing can be done. Tang Fan's shell company finally stood up in the midst of difficulties. Everything was on the right track. After Tang Fan became familiar with it, he did not rush to make the ancient martial arts mecha, but began to study the standard mecha on the market and improve it. In his opinion, Songsi had worked hard to make connections for him, and he must be responsible to Songsi and the expeditionary army. And this responsibility is to come up with more and better mechas and give back to others. Songsi has an explanation to the military, so this business can be done for a longer time. No progress is regression. Not launching new models for 2 years is definitely a serious regression, and will eventually be submerged by the torrent of history. Before the procurement plan for the Expeditionary Army's standard mecha was finalized in October, Tang Fan sent the improved standard mecha to Songsi. Standard mechas are provided to the military only after thousands of trials. Any small change is not easy, but Tang Fan just picked bones in the egg and modified 7 places. In this way, the materials used are more economical and energy-saving without compromising on agility and stability. When Songsi received this batch of standard mechas and drawings, he was so happy that he almost jumped up. He didn't care that he was still at work, and ran to his home with the drawings. Just after arriving home, before he could even sit down, Marshal Song Yuanqi, who knew that Songsi had skipped work, rushed back. He opened his mouth and was about to curse, but was attracted by the standard mecha in the living room. As a marshal of the alliance and an excellent 9th-level mecha driving master, Song Yuanqi's understanding of mechas is not inferior to any 4th-level mecha foundry master. What's more, this mecha in front of him is what he sees every day for more than 10 years. Any small detail change can't be hidden from the eyes of this marshal. Is this the reason why you skipped work? Song Yuanqi's voice was cold, but his expression was not too ugly. As a biological son, Songsi understood that his father's anger had subsided a lot. He immediately adjusted his attitude, saluted properly, and respectfully presented the design sent to him by Tang Fan with both hands. This is the design that Tang Fan sent me. He made 7 changes to the standard mecha. The changes are not big, but they are very useful. After the changes, it can save 2% of materials and reduce energy consumption by 7%. Song Yuanqi's eyes lit up when he heard this. Although 2% and 7% are not big, they can't withstand the huge base of military mechas. You know, the annual procurement plan of the entire military is 100,000 standard mechas. In other words, if all of them are handed over to Tang Fan to make, there can be 2,000 more mechas. According to the cost price of 200,000 reported by Zao's Mecha last year, that is a full 400 million. With these 400 million, who dares to say that he is partial to him? However, no mecha pilot would think that the energy source is too much. Song Yuanqi patted Songsi on the shoulder. You did a good job on this matter. I turned a blind eye to the matter of skipping work without reason. But what about you stealing my salary card? Songsi's proud expression froze. My dear father, didn't I tell you? All that money has become Tang's shares. Song Yuanqi's eyes widened when he heard this. Where did you learn the military rules and discipline? On-duty officers cannot engage in business. Do you know that? Songsi curled his lips and didn't want to discuss this issue. On-duty officers cannot engage in business. But apart from their Song family, which family doesn't have 1 or 2 young people engaged in business? Let's not talk about anything else, just Lu Tao from the Lu family, who is a negative example of playing with mechas all day long in the eyes of adults. But he fiddles with mechas every day, does some live broadcasts, becomes an internet celebrity with millions of fans, and promotes goods for others. His life is much more carefree than these hard-working soldiers. Only their old man really abides by the rules and doesn't know how to make adjustments. Songsi rolled his eyes and laughed. We are soldiers and cannot do business. But it's different for our mother. It's not against the law for us to invest in Tang's mecha for our mother. Although he knew that Songsi was changing the concept, Song Yuanqi really couldn't find any fault. He could only say angrily, just do it. After that, he shook his sleeves, rolled up the design drawings, and ran away. Needless to say, he must have gone to show off to his group of old friends. Songsi looked at Song Yuanqi's back, breathed a sigh of relief, and muttered, he is just a righteous man. Ms. Yaoshu, who had been watching for a long time, put down the flower arrangement in her hand and clapped her hands. If you have the guts, say this again in front of your father. When Songsi heard this, his body was shocked and he begged for mercy. In the sunshine of September, the mother and son talked and laughed, played and quarreled, and the years were quiet and good. Chapter 92 Mr. and Mrs. Smith. While the Song family was full of laughter and joy, the Zhang family, no, the Smith family, was in a gloomy mood. School was about to start, But Miss Olivia Smith was once again beaten by Mrs. Smith so hard that she couldn't get out of bed and couldn't go to school. This was not the first time. During the winter vacation last year, because of the personal grudge of the young lady, a nail that Mrs. Smith had placed in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy was damaged, and Mrs. Smith had an attack once. That time, Mrs. Smith slapped the young lady in the face twice. Mrs. Smith has an A-level physique and physical skills, and after 2 slaps, Miss Olivia's face swelled on the spot. Not only did she beat her, but Mrs. Smith also forbade Miss Olivia to use the treatment cabin. That time, the young lady lost all her dignity and hid at home for half a month without going out. Fortunately, Mrs. Smith only had an attack once, and Miss Olivia admitted her mistake, so that was it. But this time, since Olivia came back from vacation, she has not been feeling well. Madam always believed that everything that Zhang's Mecha encountered now was because Miss Olivia provoked the classmate Tang Fan from the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Madam felt that if Miss Olivia and Miss Tang Fan were on good terms, many things could be avoided, and it would be possible for Zhao's Mecha to reach a higher level. Miss Olivia would explain a few words at first, but when Miss Olivia couldn't stand it anymore and yelled at Madam's attitude changed. That day, Miss Olivia was directly whipped by Madam with a horsewhip and passed out. She had to take medicine for 3 days before she could get out of bed. It was also on that day that Miss Tang Fan immediately boarded the list of Zhao's urgent attention, reaching the same level as Marshal Song Yuanxi and Principal Lan Yuan. Since then, Blue Sea Mecha Academy and Tang Fan have become taboo words in the Smith family. When these 2 nouns are mentioned, Miss Olivia can destroy a room. Not to mention Mrs. Smith, whose cold eyes can kill people. But this classmate Tang Fan is too capable. In a few months, she won the first place in the Mecha design competition, and she also broadcast live to teach the knowledge of animal and human mechanization, and she also broadcast the materialization of ancient martial arts Mecha. That's fine. This guy actually took off the shell of Tang's Mecha, and started from customizing the ancient martial arts Mecha, trying to restore the glory of Tang's Mecha step by step. The lady's expression became colder and colder, and her mood became worse and worse. Miss Olivia didn't have a good piece of meat on her body, and the people below were trembling with fear, fearing that their lives would be in danger. This time, Mrs. Smith not only failed to grab the first-hand ancient martial arts Mecha, but also failed to grab the second-hand one. Another love fell on Miss Olivia. Mrs. Smith's attitude towards Miss Olivia really makes people doubt whether Miss Olivia is her own daughter. But when everyone saw the man who appeared at the door, the husband who had not appeared at home for more than half a month, everyone had a different opinion. Perhaps, it is because Miss Olivia is the lady's own daughter that the lady is like this? There is a kind of feeling in this world called hate out of love. There is a kind of debt in this world, called the son pays the father's debt. Willie Smith, who had not been home for more than half a month, had a fierce argument with Zhang Awei as soon as he stepped into the house. After staying for less than an hour, Willie Smith left angrily. He also took away Olivia, who was tightly wrapped in a windbreaker. For more than half a month, Olivia lay in the treatment cabin for the first time. But Olivia, who climbed out of the treatment cabin, was not grateful to her father. Facing Willie who rescued her, Olivia's expression was not good, and could even be called sarcastic. That Tang Fan, who looks so much like you and is feared by your mother, could she be your illegitimate daughter? Willie seemed to have gotten used to Olivia's sarcasm. He did not change his expression and patted Olivia's shoulder. Don't learn from your mother, who is suspicious all day long. She doesn't know who I am, but you don't know, Tang Man is not Zhang Awei, who can do such a thing as drugging him. Unless what he did in his dream could also create a daughter. Otherwise, with his character of learning from his mistakes, he would not have an illegitimate child wandering around. Thinking of Tang Mangan and that innocent and lovely girl, Willie smiled. Olive looked at Willie's smile and couldn't help but sneered. It is because I know what kind of person you are that I feel cold for my mother. The man who spent all his energy to love her, the man who said he loved her, actually didn't have her in his heart at all. Since you are so obsessed with your first love, why do you still provoke your mother and want to kill all the Tang mechas? William Smith reached out and touched Olive's head, and smiled. It's not me who provoked your mother, but she provoked me. As for Tang, only what you hold in your hands is your own. Sweet words, deep affection, and vows are all unreliable. At this point, Willie seemed to remember something, and his expression and voice became a little colder. However, this kind of coldness was not obvious. If it weren't for someone like Olivia who knew Willie very well, she wouldn't have noticed it at all. Knowing that she had poked Willie's wound, Olivia not only didn't regret it at all, but she chuckled. It's a pity, you tried so hard, but you still didn't get it, right? The little princess of Tang's Mecha, the cinnabar mole and white moonlight in her father's heart. Even if Tang's went bankrupt and her parents died, she still didn't fall into her father's hands in the end. Willie Smith's only pain in his heart, a rare failure in his life, was torn open by his own daughter, and salt was rubbed on the wound. But the displeasure on Willie's face flashed away, and turned into a sense of indifference. There are always many accidents in life. As long as you wait for the opportunity and correct it in time, you will always get what you want. Willie's actions were gentle, but the meaning behind his words made Olivia shudder. Willie meant that as long as he was given a chance, he would correct his mistakes and become the ending he wanted? Compared to Zhang Awei, who has no secrets in her heart and never waits for revenge, the man in front of her, who looks as gentle as an angel but has a heart darker than the devil, makes her more frightened. People say that she looks a lot like her mother Zhang Awei, but no one knows that she also looks a lot like her father Willie. It's just that her IQ can't be compared with her father's, and her disguise is far worse than her father's, that's all. Her father is a complete scumbag, a big devil. You worked so hard to get me out of my home, and you didn't hesitate to tear your face with my mother. You can't have no purpose. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Tearing off the mask of warmth, Olivia laid everything out. Chapter 93 Chess Pieces. Willie couldn't help but frown at Olivia's rude behavior, which was just like Zhang Awei's. Olivia, your behavior is a bit rude. Olivia took a deep breath, forced a bitter smile, and said gently, my father has done a lot for me. I don't know how to repay his kindness. Looking at Olivia's smile that was uglier than crying, Willie felt his temples throbbing. Keep an eye on that Tang Fan. Zhao was beaten to skin by your mother. She can't stand this kind of torture a few times. Willie's words made Olivia look sideways. I thought that Zhang was just a dispensable thing for you, a toy that you can throw away after using. Willie couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. Olivia, you are too naive. The reason why I can get to where I am today is not only because of my own reasons, but also because of the unshakable position of Zhao's Mecha in the mecha manufacturing industry. Whether it is the hawks or the doves, the mechas used are all produced by our Zhao's Mecha. This means that we control all the combat power of the alliance. Both the hawks and the doves have been dissatisfied with this for a long time. This is also the reason why your mother was hysterical as soon as Tang Fan showed up. Olivia suddenly realized, you knew it a long time ago, knowing what she did at the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, knowing how Zhang Awei would treat her, and knowing what kind of threat Tang Fan would pose to Zhang's Mecha. Willie shook his head. Olivia, you overestimated me. I know what you did in school, but I didn't know that the little girl you provoked would set traps step by step and force you to this point. I knew your mother would be nervous, but I didn't expect her to be so hysterical, let alone that she would do this to you. I didn't know that a little girl with nothing could take over Tang's company overnight and quickly turn the tables. I believe that without Lan Yuan's help, she would not have been able to get this far. But these are not excuses, nor are they reasons. The little girl that we all looked down upon, just like me back then, seized every opportunity and stood up. Olivia looked at Willie talking calmly about his mother and herself, and talking about Tang Fan with a little appreciation, and her heart was like falling into an ice cave. What is she still looking forward to? Did she know that this man only had interests in his eyes? Expect him to be affectionate? I'm afraid you're kidding. In his eyes, Tang Fan, who can seize opportunities and gain benefits, is more worthy of attention than her. This is her father. What a cold man. I understand what you mean, you don't need to say more. We are all tied to the giant ship of Zhao's Mecha. Once Zhao's Mecha sinks, no one can escape. Don't forget, this we includes not only mother and me, but also you. Seeing that Olivia was almost collapsed, Willie shrugged and changed the subject in a compromising manner. Now, you and me, let's go to Blue Sea Star. Olivia looked at the familiar scenery outside the starship and sneered in her heart. Is it interesting to ask her such a symbolic question after they have already arrived around the gourmet star? Do I have the right to refuse? Olivia accidentally said what was in her heart. Willie was amused by Olivia's childishness. Of course. You have the right to object. If you do that, I will let the starship pilot stop at the food star. There are still 5 hours before the registration deadline. And I can spend 5 hours to convince you. But if we still can't reach an agreement in the end, I can't let a child miss her opening ceremony. Don't you think so? The voice was gentle and the movements were elegant, but the meaning behind the words was so cold and ruthless, arrogant and domineering. This is the true face of Willie Smith, the rising star in the political arena praised by everyone. Olivia's chest rose and fell rapidly, trying to restrain herself. Her opinion has never been important, right? Whether it is Zhang Awei or Willie, she is a chess piece at their mercy. Sadly, she can't get rid of it, and can't get rid of it. We'll have to go sooner or later, so just stop at Blue Star. Seeing Olivia compromise, Willie curled his lips in satisfaction. Good boy. The next second, Olivia received a transfer from her father. Looking at the long string of zeros, Olivia's heart was filled with mixed feelings. If money could buy everything, she would rather exchange this string of zeros for parents who love her and friends who are sincere. For example, like Brad and Zhao Fan, George and Qin Yi to Tang Fan. Thinking about Tang Fan, and then thinking about herself, with similar faces and different experiences, Olivia's expression was subtle. Many people envy themselves for being born with a silver spoon in their mouths, and they look down on Tang Fan who came from the 9th-level planet. But in fact, it is not certain who is happier. Just as Olivia was thinking about it, the starship had slowly approached Blue Star. Blue Star has only one port, which is not open to the public unless there are special circumstances. Of course, few people would stop at Blue Star, which is located in a remote area and is heavily guarded. Therefore, this starship with a family crest designed by Willie Smith, which symbolizes Willie Smith's status, has no effect except to raise the alert level of Blue Sea Star a little bit. Ducking is not allowed. This is the first time that Willie Smith's face has not worked since he entered the political arena. Even the master of disguise, Willie Smith, took a long time to adjust his mood. Seeing Willie's face changing in front of her, Oliver felt a sense of pleasure that you have come to this day. Even being brought to Blue Sea Star by Willie in a mecha and being forced to play the role of father and daughter with Willie, Oliver's good mood could not be broken. There was a commotion. The headline of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy's intranet was that Willie Smith visited the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. This matter alarmed the entire Blue Sea Mecha Academy, and even Lan Yuan took time out of his busy schedule to sit in the office for fear of unrest. But Willie Smith's target, Tang Fan, was not moved at all. In Tang Fan's heart, Willie Smith was far less important than the mecha he was waiting to assemble. Whether he came or not, it would not cause any ripples in Tang Fan's heart. Instead of watching a male peacock spreading its tail everywhere, it would be better to assemble a few more mechas. Those are all credit points. And to meet Willie Smith? I will definitely see him on the day I defeat him, and his expression at that time should be even better. Seeing that the registration deadline was approaching little by little, Willie Smith had no reason to stay and had to return home in defeat. Olive looked at Willie's figure who kept looking back every few steps, and her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Chapter 94 Public Opinion. When Olivia saw Tang Fan again, it was only a summer vacation later, but it seemed like a lifetime ago. Another class of freshmen reported, but there was no one as amazing as Tang Fan and George. Olivia was disappointed, but she unexpectedly learned that Tang Fan not only won the procurement plan of standard mechas for the Expeditionary Force and the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Even the procurement plan of standard mechas for the Blackwater Army and the Lu Family Iron Army under Marshal Blake was won by Tang's mecha. With a hoe, Tang Fan dug out a quarter of the foundation of Zhao's mecha. This time, not only did Olivia not discover Tang Fan's new movements, but also the nails planted by Zhang in various circles were not discovered. Zhang Awei rushed to the office where Willie Smith usually stayed in a rage. Willie seemed to know what she was going to say, and before she could open her mouth, he handed over a detailed bid. The 9 big words, save 2% of materials marked by Willie Smith in red pen successfully blocked Zhang Awei's words. Willie's expression rarely turned cold. Half of the purchase plan you hold is based on our friendship for many years, and the other half is because you have no knowledge of this bid. If Zhao's mecha does not have new and effective measures, I don't know whether the next purchase plan can be obtained. Zhang Awei's hands could not help but tremble, and the bid in her hand fell to the ground with a snap. Willie, you are kidding me, right? Willie Smith shook his head. Zhang Awei, you know the meaning of Zhang's mecha to me, I will never joke about it. Zhang Awei looked at Willie's usual expression, and her heart was desolate. Yes, you can abandon your beloved in order to get ahead, but how can you watch Zhang's decline? Tell me. What other trump cards do you have? I cooperate. Willie's eyes rarely showed a trace of bitterness. Before the incident, Zhang Awei only knew how to fight for power and show off. If something really happened, she would only push herself out and think of a way. If Zhang had a way to think, how could it have come to this point today? I can only try to delay the time for the military to allocate materials. The rest depends on you. There is still a whole year before the procurement plan is formulated next year. If you can't do it, drinking tea, shopping, buying may be more suitable for you. Don't delay the development of Zhang. Zhang Awei was so angry that she trembled all over. Willie Smith, don't forget that the Zhang Mecha is named Zhang, Willie sneered, revealing the sarcasm that he would only show in front of Zhang Awei. Besides this, what else do you have? Zhang Awei looked at Willie's contemptuous expression and indifferent words, and her heart seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand, and she felt difficulty breathing. When a man is too lazy to pretend in front of you. What kind of despair is that? Zhang Awei's heart is like a mirror, but she doesn't want to let go, and she is unwilling to let go. This man who she fell in love with at first sight, the man she spent all her efforts and means to get, how can she be willing to let him go? Even in hell, they will be entangled for life. She will never let go. It's enough for me to have this. At least, I have everything I want, right? Zhang Awei's smug look and meaningful words made Willie Smith's face change. I have a few more meetings to attend, so I won't accompany you. I hope that the next time I see you, the crisis of Zhang's Mecha has been successfully resolved. After all, only in this way can you continue to be proud. Zhang Awei raised her head proudly. That is also Mr. Smith's capital to gain a foothold in the political arena, isn't it? Zhang Awei walked away arrogantly, leaving Willie Smith, who claimed to have had several meetings, standing there, breathing in and out to calm down his emotions. Although Zhang Awei was dissatisfied with Willie Smith, she still listened to his advice and started with the improvement of the Mecha, which set off the prelude to the reform of Zhao's Mecha. And no matter how angry Willie Smith was, he followed his promise to Zhang Awei and tried his best to delay the time for the military to allocate raw materials. These two things were carried out almost at the same time. There was no fanfare, but it could not be hidden from the eyes of those who were interested. For example, Song Yuanxi, Lan Yuan, and Tang Fan. If it were not for the deposit for that batch of ancient martial arts mechas, Tang Fan felt that he might not last more than a month. Fortunately, he was not fighting alone. Song Yuanxi and Lan Yuan, who stood behind him for various reasons, and the Black family and the Lu family, who surrendered because of saving 2% of materials, all lent a hand to Tang Fan at the first time. While they were raising raw materials for Tang's mechas, they put pressure on the military. But the military was determined and would not be moved. When everyone was at a loss, Tang Fan unexpectedly came up with another surprise. He took his own design draft and went straight to the patent office to apply for a design patent. That's fine. What's surprising is that this guy actually live broadcasted the entire process, including the content of his application for a design patent. When Tang Fan mentioned that his design could save 2% of materials and even had a great chance of saving energy, not to mention the live broadcast room, the patent office, and the entire alliance were almost boiling. Okay. When Tang Fan showed the bid and 4 thin notices of winning the bid, and explained with a sad face that he was owed raw materials by the military, the live broadcast room, the patent office, and the entire alliance were all outraged. Some people claimed that this was definitely a conspiracy created by the military and Zhao's Mecha, with the purpose of legally occupying taxpayers' money. This assertion caused heated discussions on the Star Network. Many people who supported this argument not only occupied the official website of the military in indignation, but also did not spare the websites of other departments of the alliance. Some people in the capital Star also spontaneously organized a protest march. The media newspapers and magazines also heard the news and reported and commented on this matter. The bigwigs with procurement indicators who were deceived by Willie Smith and had no idea about this bid were even more beating their chests and stamping their feet. The military was immediately surrounded by the vast ocean of people's war. Public opinion was one-sided. Explanations were useless. With everyone united, the minister of the military was the first to resign. The raw materials withheld from the military were also transferred to Tang Fan with great fanfare. Tang Fan, holding the raw materials, smiled widely. He was good at the war of public opinion. As a new internet celebrity, he had never been afraid. Now, he had the design patent and the raw materials. The people sent to him by Colonel Song Si were almost ready. Next, it would depend on how Tang Fan's mecha would conquer the mecha market step by step. Even if he couldn't damage Zao's mecha, he would have to make it lose a layer of skin. Chapter 95 Show Off. In theory, Tang Fan's design is perfect and highly operable. But in reality, the veterans assigned by Colonel Song Si are not very good practitioners. In the first week of Tang's mecha's opening, the scrap rate was as high as 20%. Tang Fan's goal of saving 2% of materials was not achieved, but he lost a lot. Although Tang Fan had been mentally prepared, he still felt distressed for a long time. Even so, Tang Fan did not relax the quality requirements even a little bit. Fortunately, most of the raw materials can be reused, and fortunately, the veterans gradually became familiar with the operation. But when everything was on track, it was already 3 months later. The students were about to have their winter vacation. Tang Fan was no exception. Tang's mecha had just opened for a few months, and there were so many things waiting for him to make a decision. He had to go to Bezel Star in person and could not hide in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Fortunately, Brad also wanted to go home, and Zhao Fan also planned to go to Bezel Star to work. Even George and Qin Yi planned to take a detour to Bezel Star and then return to the capital star. It was also at this time that Tang Fan learned that George, the classmate who didn't like to talk much, was actually the eldest grandson of Jason Black, the leader of the Blackwater Army. And the cute little foodie Qin Yi was the granddaughter of Qin Yu, the 8th-level pharmacist of the Blackwater Army. The two of them were representing the Blackwater Army to visit Tang's mecha. There is no love or hatred without reason in the world. Tang Fan had been worried for a long time about the standard mecha procurement plan of the Blackwater Army and the Lu Family Iron Army under Marshal Black. Knowing that the Blackwater Army was also a friendly army, Tang Fan was relieved. The only thing to worry about was the Lu Family Iron Army. Before Tang Fan could figure out what was going on, the mecha collector who made her cut in line as an exception actually sent him a private message. When he saw the message, Tang Fan was shocked. I heard that the Blue Sea Mecha Academy is going to have a holiday. In view of the Lu family's Iron Army's standard mecha procurement plan, not only can you give me a sword god mecha to make it a whole, but you can also give me a set of mecha parts so that I can assemble it myself. It should be no problem. After searching for a long time, it was easy to find. The last meritorious minister showed up, and Tang Fan's heart was relieved. Not only did he agree to the request of mecha collector, he generously gave him a set of mecha parts and let him assemble it himself. Moreover, he also launched a new business on the live broadcast platform to sell complete sets of mecha parts for Guu Mecha. Let more Guu Mecha enthusiasts and mecha assembly fanatics have a new way to play. There are 4 mechas in the Guu Mecha series, and the total price of all parts is 1.8 million credit points. I thought this high price could stop a large number of buyers, but who knew that the first batch of 1,000 sets of Guu mechas put on the market were sold out in just 3 hours. Tang Fan was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. He dragged 4 diners along and took great pains to express 1,000 mecha parts. The first person to receive the goods was naturally Mr. Lu Tao, the mecha collector. He did not disappoint everyone and started a live broadcast. He showed off his assembly skills in front of millions of fans and successfully assembled the Sword God Mecha using the Sword God Mecha parts set. This deeply stimulated many mecha pilots. There are really more than 1 or 2 people who always think that if Lu Tao can do it, they can do it too. There are really more than 1 or 2 real tragedies of people who are obviously clumsy but still insist on taking pictures of ancient martial arts mecha parts to assemble themselves, but in the end they are missing arms and legs and can only pay people to help. For a time, the value of Mecha Foundry doubled and their status was greatly raised. This caused the Mecha Foundry and the entire alliance to love and hate Tang Fan. Of course, this is all later. Tang Fan, who made a fortune, suddenly had another task, to supervise the production of a full set of parts for the Guu series, to ensure that the second batch of 10,000 sets of Guu Mecha parts would be on the market as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Tang Fan, who was poor and stingy, did not have a starship, but was unwilling to pay for the travel expenses. This guy actually took the order contract signed with the powerful sister and found Lan Yuan, saying that the contract did not stipulate the time and place for picking up the goods. For the sake of the master-disciple relationship, he was willing to give priority to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy, but Lan Yuan had to send someone to Bezel Star to pick up the goods. Moreover, the shameless person also wanted to take a ride. Even though Lan Yuan was knowledgeable, he was stunned by Tang Fan's operation. But he knew in his heart that Tang Fan never played those empty tricks. If he did not meet Tang Fan's small request today, Tang Fan could suppress the mecha of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy until the last moment stipulated in the contract. After all, he also has a stake in Tang's mecha, but the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy only pays him a salary. What can Lan Yuan do? He can only choose to compromise. So, the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy Tour Group, no, the Mecha Inspection and Acceptance Group, set off in such a mighty manner. From the principal Lan Yuan, to the director of the finance department Fang Mian, to the deans of each department, and 1/3 of the school's outstanding teachers, all came. Looking at the huge Blue Ocean Mecha Academy Tour Group, Tang Fan was shocked. Director Fang Mian patted Tang Fan on the shoulder with a smile. The teachers all know that you are a good child. Look, everyone has come to your territory. Should this itinerary be arranged? Tang Fan looked at Lan Yuan in disbelief, and Lan Yuan quickly turned his head away, not daring to look into Tang Fan's eyes. He dared not offend the god of wealth and his wife. As the head of a school and the head of a family, it was really too difficult for him. Looking at Lan Yuan's cowardly look, Fang Mian smiled with satisfaction, but Tang Fan felt unwell. Is this, relying on him? Looking around, Tang Fan narrowed his eyes. It's just a schedule. A 1-month tour of Tang's mecha is not impossible. Tang Fan's little abacus was crackling, and Fang Mian had been prepared. The two of them fought back and forth, enjoying themselves. However, the little fox could never beat the old fox, and Tang Fan was defeated in the end. Seeing Tang Fan's defeat, all the teachers laughed. There was no way, Tang Fan was too good at making trouble and making too much noise. However, is Tang Fan a person who will suffer a loss? No, he is a person who fully practices the principle of spit out what you eat and give me back what you take. Since it is destined to suffer a dumb loss, then make up for it from other places. From that day on, Tang Fan and his friends turned into diligent and studious students, devoted to learning and asking for advice humbly. However, the 5 people, especially Tang Fan and George, raised questions that were more difficult than one. So much so that everyone's mouths were dry and their legs were shaking when they saw Tang Fan. Tang Fan, who had learned a lot and made great progress, finally felt satisfied when he saw the teachers holding their water cups tightly with dark circles under their eyes. The travel expenses were used to offset the tuition fees, so this deal was not too bad. After all, knowledge is priceless. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Itinerary. When the starship docked at the port, Tang Fan clearly felt that the teacher's eyes lit up. Tang Fan just smiled and said nothing. He rented a public aircraft and took the teachers through the market with the aroma of basil, all the way west to Tang's mecha. Then he leaned on the aircraft and said with a smile, "Welcome to the first stop of the trip, Tang's Mecha Company." The water that Fang Mian had just drunk was sprayed out with a splash. Tang Fan dodged quickly and continued, "Tang's Mecha Company is the largest enterprise on Basil Star and the only place that can accommodate you. However, due to some well-known reasons, the company's assets have been sold, including the basic facilities in the dormitory. Therefore, your accommodation conditions may depend on the items you bring and your hands-on ability. If you are well prepared, you can move into the second dormitory building. If you are not well prepared, you can ask Mr. William, the head of the factory, and I will try my best to satisfy you. As the host, I will solve the problem of eating for you. Please do your best." William had received Tang Fan's notice a long time ago, and smiled as he took the teachers to visit the second dormitory building. Except for the 2 public toilets on the left and right of each floor, other places are like snow caves, simple and empty to the point of being scary. Looking at the unbelievable expressions of the teachers, William smiled and took them to continue to visit the first dormitory building where they had already moved in. After seeing the beds, cabinets, tables, chairs, daily necessities and furnishings of various shapes, everyone finally understood the meaning of Tang Fan's words. Your accommodation conditions may be determined according to the items you bring and your hands-on ability. This is not difficult for the masters of the mecha casting department. As long as you have the materials and tools, you can make mecha-shaped furniture, not to mention ordinary furniture. but it's hard for the clumsy hands. Fortunately, everyone has experienced great storms, and it didn't take long for everyone to come up with a solution. For example, Director Lee Banksh's bed with 2 iron ingots and a metal plate. For example, Director Go Seogu's bed with a few combat boots and a metal plate. Simple but not simple. Tang Fan couldn't help but want to give the two a thumbs up. If the veteran sent by Song Si could have this kind of awareness, how many eye-catching shots would be reduced? Other clumsy hands followed suit, and various simple beds were quickly formed and covered with bedding, which looked very good. Moreover, this group of bored teachers who had nothing better to do actually strongly requested that the rule of assembling dormitory furniture by themselves be included in the employee code of Tang's Mecha. It is difficult to disobey the teacher's order. Tang Fan really agreed. He would never admit that he did this with the mentality of watching a good show. Of course, poor family background is also an important reason. Since the teachers have worked hard and self-reliantly to complete this major task of living, Tang Fan is embarrassed to embarrass them in terms of food. In addition, as a big boss, he was embarrassed to be too stingy when meeting his employees for the first time, so Tang Fan really invested a lot. The winter on Basil Star is not cold, but it does not prevent everyone from eating mutton. Tang Fan got 8 cloud antelopes, 2 of which were roasted, 2 were used to make clear mutton soup pot, 2 were used to make red mutton soup pot, and the rest were used by Tang Fan to make mutton skewers and mutton skewers. In short, dinner was a variety of ways to eat cloud antelopes. The employees are all veterans who like to eat meat and drink wine. It is no surprise that they chose roasted whole lamb. The roasted whole lamb is fresh and healthy, with thick meat. The lamb roasted over charcoal has a strong flavor, and the fat is sizzling and attached to the lamb. The lamb is tender and not greasy. Paired with a fine wine of Basil Star, the taste is wonderful. The teachers of Blue Sea Mecha Academy were cheated by Tang Fan's roasted whole lamb. They trembled when they saw the roasted whole lamb and chose the lamb soup pot without saying a word. The lamb soup pot cooked by Tang Fan himself has a milky white, mellow and fresh taste. The texture of the lamb is tender, soft and fragrant, with moderate saltiness, beautiful color and rich nutrition. The soup of the clear soup lamb pot is milky white, mellow and fresh. The texture of the lamb is tender, soft and fragrant, with moderate saltiness, beautiful color and rich nutrition. The red soup mutton pot prepared by adding peppers, peppercorns, broad beans, and mountain pepper to the mutton soup is spicy and tempting. The sliced mutton, tripe, and liver are tossed in the oil pan, and paired with several local specialties of Basil Star, chicken mushrooms, dried bamboo shoots, and alpine sweet potato vermicelli, which makes people eat with great pleasure. Relying on 8 cloud antelopes, Tang Fan successfully got along with the teachers and employees. Of course, he drank a lot of wine. In the end, Tang Fan was helped back to the dormitory by Brad and Qin Yi. However, he woke up as soon as he returned to the dormitory. Tang Fan would never tell others about washing his hair and taking a bath. Although he has been in the world for many years and has always been dressed as a man, he has not forgotten that he is a woman. It is necessary for a girl to remain 3 points sober and vigilant no matter when and where. Otherwise, how could he find someone sneaking into Tang's Mecha in the middle of the night? Tang Fan narrowed his eyes, nudged Qin Yi in the bed next to him, covered her mouth, pointed at the shadow passing by outside the window, and pointed in the direction of George's room. As a roommate who had lived together for 3 semesters, Qin Yi immediately understood and nodded. Tang Fan gently opened the window, jumped down, and chased in the direction of the figure. Qin Yi quickly turned on the light brain, pressed a button, and opened her door. In just 5 seconds, George rushed over from the next room. Seeing that Qin Yi was fine, George breathed a sigh of relief first. Why did you press the emergency button when you were fine? I was scared. Qin Yi didn't wait for him to finish, and pulled him to the wide-open window, pointing to the agile figures in the dark. George pursed his lips. The purchase tonight was too noisy, with cloud antelopes and wine. After the dinner, vigilance will definitely be reduced. Naturally, some people think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, George said while sending messages to several close friends. Soon, Brad, Zhao Fan, William, Lan Yuan, Go Seogu, Lee Bangsha and others came over. George said a few simple words, and everyone rushed out separately. 10 minutes later, a group of people holding recording equipment and optical computers surrounded the masked man who had searched through boxes and cabinets and finally found the design data. The 2 masked men looked at each other and were about to break through with the data. But Go Seogu stretched out his hand at the right time. He took off the masks of the two people in a lightning speed. The two people's ordinary faces that were soon lost in the crowd suddenly appeared in the camera. Chapter 97 Trial. Seeing that the video equipment had captured the two people, the teachers and veterans of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy immediately swarmed over and enthusiastically fought. Tang Fan frowned at the scene in front of him and waved his hand. The latter part must be deleted. Catching a thief is a just thing. But unilaterally beating a thief is excessive self-defense. Everyone also knew the interests involved and answered with a smile, yes. Then, various editing operations were performed. The picture was so beautiful that I couldn't bear to watch it. William clapped his hands with a smile. I'm really sorry for disturbing your rest. Let me handle the rest. Kenya poked her head out from behind George and said with a smile, can I participate? William looked at the soft and cute little girl, and his mouth twitched. Little girl, interrogating prisoners is not suitable for you. Kenya took out 2 truth serums from her space buckle and shook them. I think I'm quite suitable. There's nothing wrong with this. William's mouth twitched. If you insist, then come together. Kenya shook George's arm. George sighed, protected Kenya and followed. Tang Fan shook his head and yawned. We've caught the person, washed him, and eaten the melon. Let's all go. Let's go. After that, he went back to the dormitory to sleep. Brad and Zhao Fan looked at each other and followed Tang Fan's pace. Lan Yuan hesitated for a moment, then dragged Go Seogu back to the dormitory building. Seeing this, the other teachers followed back. Only Mr. Li Bangsha followed Qin Yi and said with a smile, I'll go and see too. If your medicine doesn't work, I can help you with it. If your medicine works, you can report to my laboratory next semester. Kenya tightened her grip on George's clothes. Her goal was to eat, not to report to any laboratory. George patted Qin Yi's hand and comforted her, be good. Study hard and make progress every day. We don't pursue too much, at least we can't be pulled too far by Tang Fan, right? Qin Yi's hand that was tightly holding George's sleeve loosened, looked at the 2 potions in her hand pitifully, and sighed inaudibly. George rubbed Qin Yi's head, took her hand, and followed William. Old man Li Bangsha touched his chin, and a smile flashed in his eyes. He had waited for many years, and finally a fun little guy appeared in the pharmacy department. Finally, he could have a good time. Looking at the remote warehouse in front, Li Bangsha raised his eyebrows. This classmate William is not simple either. Things are getting more and more interesting. When the 3 appeared at the door of the warehouse, William had already tied up the 2 thieves. The special tendons and complicated knots are definitely not something that a small businessman from a level 9 planet should understand. This time, not only did old man Li Bangsha look at William with a new eye, but George also tasted some of the flavor. This Mr. William is Brad's father. Brad's last name is Smith, which means that this Mr. William is called William Smith? Director Lee, what is your impression of the name William Smith? Li Bangsha touched his chin and shook his head. In the Alliance, 1 out of every 10 people is called William. Even if you add the last name, there are too many people with the same name. George smiled slightly. Then there is a Mr. Tang who is often associated with him. Old man Li Bangsha's eyes lit up. When you say that, I remember someone. More than 10 years ago, there was an amazing person in the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy named Tang Fan. He had a roommate named William Smith. However, Mr. William was a master of the mecha driving department and was only suppressed by Tang Fan. He has nothing to do with mecha casting. George pondered for a moment. Was Mr. William assigned to the expeditionary force together with senior Tang Fan? Old man Li Bangsha nodded. That's right, that's right. George laughed immediately. In this way, they're a match. As for what they had met, George did not say it, but old man Li Bangsha suddenly realized it, and a trace of pity flashed in his eyes. What a pity for Jingshu. He waited hard for his sweetheart, but he didn't know that there was a green grassland on his head. George thought about Tang Fan's face that looked 70% to 80% like Olivia Smith, and tapped his palm. Are you talking about senior Tang Fan's rumored girlfriend, Zhao Jingshu, teacher Zhao? It's a pity, but not necessarily. Old man Li Bangsha was stunned for a moment, as if he remembered something, and laughed. That's right, that's right. Before the truth comes out, it's too early to say anything. Kenya, who was helping William to feed the 2 thieves medicine, heard the laughter and couldn't help turning her head and glaring at George. George received a signal from Xiao Qingmei, touched his nose awkwardly, and pulled on old man Li Bangsha's sleeve. Old man Li Bangsha realized that the occasion was not right. and coughed twice to hold back his smile. Kinyu watched the two people calm down, then retracted her gaze and waited for the two people to take effect. On the contrary, Mr. William, the protagonist of the conversation, had always focused on the two thieves. He did not react to their whispering and laughing. He just quietly waited for the truth serum potion to take effect. Although Kinyu was young, he was really capable. In just 3 minutes, the potion took effect on the two thieves. Whatever William asked, they answered without any pause or hesitation. Kinyu put his hands on his waist, shook his head, and looked smug. But in fact, William had frowned. Because there was not much useful information. The two thieves were originally native Basilians. 3 months ago, not long after Tang Fan got the purchase plan of 4 standard mechas, they received a job on the black market on the Star Network, to get the design drawings of Tang's Mecha Company. No matter how powerful Tang Fan was, it was impossible for him to make so many mechas by himself. His spare parts still had to be produced by someone. With the design drawings of these parts, Tang Fan's design and design concept can be easily exposed if they are assembled and matched reasonably. His evil intentions are self-evident. But you can't do anything to the mastermind. Because the Star Network is an indestructible barrier. In the black market on the Star Network, everyone is wearing a vest, and no one knows whether the other party is a human or a ghost. Not to mention them, even the two thieves don't know who their employer is. If it weren't for the considerable reward and no time limit, the two people would never take the risk. Chapter 98 Hitchhiking. If William had known this would happen, he would never have let Kinyu use the truth serum. After all, the cost effectiveness was too low. Even lower than he expected. There was no scapegoat, no wonder Tang Fan went to bed early with a yawn. George was annoyed. However, thinking that Kinyu could go to Li Bangshi's laboratory, George's annoyance disappeared. 2 hours of sleep, in exchange for the little girl's happiness, and also a quota for working in Li Bangshi's laboratory. This deal is not a loss. The dignified heir of the Blackwater Army has been successfully led astray by Tang Fan, a stingy ghost, and has started to care about gains and losses in everything. It's really shameful to watch. George himself was unaware of it, and was quite complacent, thinking that he was not the kind of person who was lazy, didn't know the difference between grains, and didn't understand general affairs. This kind of strange thing is not strange when it happens to Tang Fan. So, it is not strange that Tang Fan can sleep soundly after catching the thief without waiting for the interrogation results. When William handed the interrogation results to Tang Fan, who finally woke up, Tang Fan only picked out the key points. When he found that there was no so-called key point, he just replied "I know" and let it go. Tang Fan hates things that only pay but no benefits. In his eyes, it is better to invest in production and make more money than to spend a lot of time and energy on such trivial matters. However, the two thieves were caught by her with time and effort, so naturally she could not waste her energy. Therefore, the teachers of Blue Sea Mecha Academy arranged a one-day tour of the administrative center of Basilstar for the next day. By the way, be a witness for Tang Fan, the person in charge of the company and the victim. Blue Sea Mecha Academy is quite famous. For the people in the administrative center of Basilstar, the pressure of a room full of teachers and the principal is huge. Even though this case was complicated and at a loss, and no one knew whether the mastermind was a human or a ghost, he was still forced to take over. As for the results of the investigation, Tang Fan did not expect it. However, in fact, Tang Fan already had a list of suspects in his mind, the vested interests, the Zhao family. Whether it was any of the Smiths or Olivia Smith, it made no difference to Tang Fan. Not only did Tang Fan think so, but several partners also thought so, and even Lu Tao, who heard about this and sent a message of condolences, thought so. It seems that the reputation of Zhao's Mecha has really reached a bottom. After accepting Lu Tao's condolences and agreeing to bring him a few parts when the Blackwater Army came to pick up the goods, Tang Fan hung up the video call on his own. After all, suspicion is just suspicion. No matter how bad the reputation of Zhao's Mecha is, it is not something that a small person like Tang Fan can shake. Going to the administrative center and sounding the alarm for them is already the limit of what Tang Fan can do. Tang Fan took the teachers of Blue Ocean Mecha Academy to visit the administrative center and the cafeteria. He let the big guys go shopping and then took everyone back to the dormitory. A dinner party was out of the question. After all, the lesson from the past was still before their eyes. Tang Fan stingily took out a box of nutrients and let everyone choose. Faced with such a Tang Fan, Fang Mian was desperate, so he simply let the teachers and Tang Fan go and arranged their schedule freely. It was no different from a divorce, and everyone parted ways and was happy. Tang Fan honestly discussed management with William, assembled mechas, and supervised production. The teachers of Blue Ocean Mecha Academy used their savings to eat, drink and have fun, and by the way, they had to answer Tang Fan's 100,000 questions, and lamented Fang Mian's rare miscalculation. Such days passed for 7 days. With the arrival of Song Si and Song Tuong with a new batch of veterans, the standard mechas of this year's Blue Sea Mecha Academy were all moved on to the Blue Sea Mecha Academy's starship, and the teachers' failed trip to Dazzle Star was finally over. While the teachers were patting their chests and celebrating, Tang Fan was looking at the old, weak, sick and disabled veterans in front of him, and he was overwhelmed. He quietly pulled Song Si over and said with a fake smile, "Colonel Song, you passed. It's okay to send novices here, but now the old, weak, sick and disabled, and those with missing limbs are also coming. This is a formal company, not a welfare center or rescue station. If you don't give an explanation today, you can wait until the last day of the delivery deadline to get the Expeditionary Army's mechas." Song Si looked at Tang Fan's attitude of not giving up until he saw the rabbit, shook his head, took out a form from his pocket and handed it to Tang Fan. Tang Fan took it in confusion, squinted his eyes and looked at it for a long time, took the paper, and rushed to the workshop to find William. Looking at Tang Fan's back, Song Si couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. "Little girl, she is really innocent and easy to coax." In fact, Tang Fan's figure just flashed into the workshop. Not only did he slow down his pace, but his expression also became indifferent. "Anyway, the people have been brought here, and they can't be returned. It's better to pretend to make Song Si happy. After all, he still needs help." When Tang Fan handed the paper Song Si handed to her to William, he only said one sentence, "You can't disbelieve it, but you can't believe it completely." William took the paper, read it word by word, put it away carefully, and then nodded to Tang Fan, "I know it in my heart." Tang Fan then took William and walked out with a smile to welcome the talents carefully selected by Song Si. The teachers of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy had just left, and the dormitories they carefully built were still there. William took the group of new employees around and let them choose their own dormitories. Then, according to the page provided by Song Si, each of these new employees was assigned a master. On the day Song Si and others arrived at the factory, all the new employees were on duty smoothly. Song Si was honest, and his expertise was similar to what was recorded on paper. Although the veterans in this area have been greatly reduced in strength due to injuries, they have stood at a certain level after all, and their experience and knowledge are not bad. After a little training, they can basically get started. Even these missing arms and legs have their own unique survival skills, and they are not here to eat for free. After settling these new employees, Tang Fan found Song Si, and the first question he asked was, "How long can you stay on Dazzle Star?" Song Si and Song Tong always pay attention to Tang's mecha, so they will naturally not miss the latest news on Dazzle Star. "Why? You want us to play detectives?" Tong shook his head. "You've found the wrong person." Tang Fan shook his head. "You can guess who did it with your knees, so I won't waste my energy." Song Si raised his eyebrows. "Then what do you want to do?" Tang Fan blinked his big eyes. "Very innocent. I just want to take a ride." "A ride?" "This girl is really bold. From Dazzle Star to Blue Sea Star and the Expeditionary Base, they are completely two different directions, okay?" Chapter 99. Although it was not on the way, Song Si still waited for 3 days on Dazzle Star, watching Tang Fan arrange the work properly and send George and Qin Yu to the starship of Capital Star. Then he took the customized mecha of the Expeditionary Army and sent Tang Fan and his numerous raw materials to Blue Sea Star. There was no way, because this guy was his money bag in the vanguard against Zao's mecha. Who made this guy just take over the most difficult batch of veterans to place in the Expeditionary Army? Can't afford to offend. Can't afford to offend. Although reluctant, Song Si still let Tang Fan take a ride smoothly. In fact, it is not so easy to take Colonel Song Si's ride. After all, the reason why this Colonel Song won the Zhou badge was because he encountered a wave of not very long-sighted star pirates when he went to the Expeditionary Army for professional internship and brought them to justice. After all, this Colonel Song was the one who eliminated a wave of star pirates every 6 months on average in the 11.5 years since graduation. After all, More than 60% of the pirates in the prison of the capital star were sent by this Colonel Song. After all, this Colonel Song has a reputation as the pirate nemesis. So, when Tang Fan looked at the vast starry sky outside the window, the nebula formed by countless dense planets, and saw a black dot that kept expanding, he was really not surprised at all. After all, it was normal for Colonel Song, who was escorting so many mechas and raw materials, to encounter pirates. Although Tang Fan was mentally prepared, he was still shocked when he saw a slightly shabby black warship gradually appearing in the slowly expanding dot. Subconsciously, Tang Fan screamed, "Enemy attack!" Tang Fan's high-octave voice broke the calm inside the starship. As the other three warships appeared from the other three directions, red lights flashed, and the entire starship remembered the piercing alarm. The four warships closed in and approached Song Si's starship. In this critical moment, Song Si's eyes were not on the starship's energy screen. He seemed to have no interest in the four red dots flashing on it. Instead, he looked at Tang Fan with interest. "You can react quickly when you are attacked for the first time. Little guy is very good. I am optimistic about you." Tang Fan rolled his eyes silently. "In this situation, do you think it is useful to think that I can help you?" Song Si raised his eyebrows. "Then what do you think is useful?" In this situation, he wasted so much time talking. Tang Fan wanted to kill him. Either fight or flee. As an admiral of the Alliance and a star pirate nemesis, you have much more experience than me. You don't need a minor like me to make decisions. Just as Song Si and Tang Fan were chatting, four dark warships had surrounded Song Si's starship. The self-driving starship made a harsh sound, and with violent tremors, the starship stopped steadily in the middle of the four warships. The two people who were chatting were all stuck in their throats with words they should and shouldn't say. Before Song Si and Tang Fan could stand firm, countless colorful beams of light were fired at the starship they were riding. The originally brand new silver-white starship immediately became bumpy and looked as dilapidated as those black warships. Warning! Warning! The starship is under energy attack. Do you want to activate the multiple energy shields? A series of emotionless mechanical synthesized voices sounded in the starship. Song Si shouted angrily, "Activate the multiple energy shields. Scan and locate the location of the node here." "Yes, Colonel." Not long after, the mechanical synthesized voice sounded again. According to analysis, this node is located in the Dibin galaxy of the Cheyenne star region, about 64.5429 standard scales away from the starting point Basil star, and about 49.0127 standard scales away from the target Blue Sea star. The nearest port of call is the port of the Ilema planet, located 3.2541 standard scales in the southwest direction, and it is expected to arrive in 30 minutes. The Dibin galaxy of the Cheyenne star region? The Ilema planet, Song Si sneered. "That should be the field family." Tong frowned slightly, clicked on the optical brain a few times, and nodded. "Yes, it's registered under the name of Emil Field. Field is a member of the Dove faction." Regardless of whether the port entry application was submitted in advance, if Song Si drove over regardless of everything, the only outcome would be to be regarded as an intruder and shot to death. Song Si sneered and issued a voice command to the console, "Immediately replenish the spare energy and use the light-speed cannon to destroy the two warships in front and on the east side." Tang Fan did not understand starships and did not say a word about Song Si's order. But everyone on the starship showed an expression of as expected when they heard Song Si's order. The starship once again sounded a mechanical voice that made people's hair stand on end. "Warning. Using the light-speed cannon will consume 80% of the battleship's reserve energy, and the remaining energy will no longer be enough to support the shield. The shield is in danger of being immediately removed, and the battleship will also fall into a low-energy state. The energy-saving mode will be turned on, and it will be unable to resist the energy tide. Are you sure you want to do this?" Tang Fan's body was shaken, and he felt bad. This guy is no longer killing 800 enemies and losing 1,000 of his own, but is thinking of fighting to the death? Before Tang Fan could say anything, Song Si had already issued an order again. "Confirm." It was too late to say anything else. Tang Fan watched the lights on the dashboard flashing, and the electronic sound sounded again. "Yes, Colonel. Energy activation begins. 10, 9. Energy device completed. Locked. Fire." A dazzling white light shot out from the silver-white battleship, and at an astonishing speed, it instantly submerged the black battleships in front and on the east. Then, a strong energy airflow swept in all directions, and the violent energy instantly rolled up a huge airflow, sweeping everything around. The energy storm raged in the starry sky, and the silver-white warship was not immune and trembled violently. The silver-white starship without a protective shield was swaying in the energy storm, and from time to time a few parts fell off and were carried away by the airflow. Warning. The energy tide is too strong, the warship will not be able to support it, and it is expected to disintegrate within 3 minutes. Warning. The synthesized voice kept ringing, making people's hearts tighten. Everyone get on the mecha and prepare for battle. The combat team protect the logistics team. Song Si issued instructions while roaring at his optical brain. The next second, everyone on the starship took action. In just 1 minute, everyone took out various mechas and hid in them. Tang Fan's hands were faster than her brain. Before her brain could turn around, her body had already taken out her turtle shell and quickly got in. Looking at Tang Fan's turtle shell, everyone on the starship couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Even Song Si couldn't help but twitch his lips when he saw Tang Fan's Shianshu mecha that molested Master Liu. Is the little girl so afraid of death? Chapter 100, Meeting but not recognizing each other. The stronger the Shianshu is, the more hatred it attracts. So even though the remaining 2 warships were swaying in the energy storm, all the firepower was still directed at Tang Fan. Fortunately, the Star Pirates did not use a powerful weapon like the light-speed cannon, or in other words, they did not have the stupidity of Song Si to kill 800 enemies and lose 1,000 of their own. It was also thanks to Tang Fan's joint training with Go Seogu and Song Si that she had made great progress in mecha operation. She turned the horsepower to the maximum, used all her skills, and changed 3 energy boxes in a row, and only then was she able to pull away a little distance and withstand the first wave of attacks. Tang Fan couldn't help but burst out a swear word, yelling, "Are you kidding me? Why are all the firepower concentrated on me?" Seeing that the girl who was going smoothly and had a plan for everything was rarely frustrated, Song Si couldn't help laughing even though she was in danger. "Little girl, do you know that there is a saying in the mecha world, standard mechas can be kept, but Shianshu must die?" Tang Fan realized where she was wrong. "Tang Gang, you've cheated me again." Tang Fan's angry words did not make anyone laugh, but instead attracted a lot of scrutiny. The internal group of the expeditionary army kept ringing. "The girl is talking about Tang Gang. That Tang Gang? I don't know him, do I? What's the relationship between the girl and Tang Gang? Could she be his daughter?" No wonder the colonel looked at her differently. It turns out she is Tang Gang's man. Song Si narrowed his eyes and said lightly, "Change mecha." Tang Fan looked at the Shianshu, which was running out of energy and flashing red light, gritted his teeth, and reluctantly gave up the treasure he had bought with half his life's savings. Stepping on the flying board, he barely stood in the air and quickly changed himself to a standard mecha. The standard mecha was extremely fragile, and Tang Fan had no sense of security at all. He looked at Song Si with tears in his eyes and begged, "Instructor Song, please, can you think of a way?" Although Song Si could not see her expression, he could tell from her anxious voice that she was really panicking. At this point, Song Si did not hide anything and spoke directly, "Laurel Weir, I know you are nearby. Get out of here quickly. The old rules, the starship is yours, and the people are mine." Before Tang Fan came to his senses, a lazy voice came over. "You should have said it earlier. Why bother so much and waste a starship?" Hearing this familiar voice, Tang Fan could not help but shudder. When the familiar, blood-red starship with a beautiful thorny rose flag lifted its stealth state and appeared in front of Tang Fan, the girl could not help but narrow her eyes. The Laurel Weir mentioned by Song Si turned out to be her old acquaintance, the Rose Duke who drove the starship to transport students. No wonder, when everyone saw the Duke of Rose on the starship, they were so silent. It seems that this guy is still engaged in this kind of black-eating black business. Tang Fan felt that he needed to evaluate the value of Song Si's purple star medal. Song Si saw the blood-red starship and curled his lips. "It's okay, just grab some and assemble another one later. 3 ships become 1, the performance should be improved, capable, willful." No. Did this guy say that the starship belongs to the Duke of Rose and the people belong to him? Then he bombarded the warships in front and on the east side intentionally or deliberately? Because the Duke of Rose did not show up in time, he was just vengeful. Then when she was used as a target, was Song Si unintentional? Or was it intentional? Tang Fan felt that he needed to use the most evil thinking to speculate about Song Si. After all, Song Si's black belly has reached the strongest 10 stars. As for Tang, who had tricked her, it was possible that he really didn't mean to do it. After all, the circle Tang drew for her was the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Although everyone despised Xianshu in that place, it was not to the point where Xianshu had to die. Tang Fan figured this out, and the look he gave Songsi was a little different. The Duke of Rose seemed to have realized this problem. His expression changed slightly, and with a wave of his hand, dozens of mechas immediately flew out of the blood-red starship and flew towards the two beautiful warships. Tang Fan and others had just moved the mechas and raw materials on the starship to their own mechas, and the warships were shattered and scattered around. Just as he stabilized his body, the battle on the two warships behind him had already started in full swing. For a moment, lights of various colors flashed, and it was not difficult to see how fierce the battle was. Before Tang Fan had time to get nervous, he saw Songsi had already led his subordinates, guarding the logistics personnel, and began to salvage the parts for construction. Among the energy rays of various colors, there were more beams of white energy aimed at the energy storm. After the energy was ejected, it quickly shrank into net. Several mechas added full power to throw the netted parts to the asteroid nearby. After a while, the parts that were about to remain in the starry sky and become space junk were salvaged. On one side, they were fighting with gunfire, while on the other side, they were cleaning the battlefield in full swing. This scene was so inconsistent, but on Songsi's side, except Tang Fan, everyone was skilled and calm, as if they were used to it. Occasionally, there were one or two fish that slipped through the net. As soon as they showed their heads, they were killed by the furious Songsi and other combatants. It was not until this time that Tang Fan noticed that Songsi was also driving a black-level mecha. It seems that Songsi's purple star medal was not entirely due to his relationship with the Duke of Rose. Tang Fan narrowed his eyes and focused on the net where the expeditionary army salvaged parts. After all, he was a professional, and he was familiar with many things. Tang Fan understood them after a little observation and careful thinking. Tang Fan finally figured it out, and when he looked up, he found that the battle was almost over. The black-level mechas flew back the same way they went. Tang Fan, who was obsessed with studying the fishing net, did not notice that one of the mechas paused slightly when passing by him. Although Tang Fan did not take it seriously, this scene could not be hidden from the eyes of those who were interested. For example, Songsi. For example, Rose Duke Lloyd Weir. Songsi saw through it but did not say it, but Rose Duke was not so kind. He was not familiar with Tang Fan, but he was familiar with the mecha pilot who returned to the starship last. He patted the mecha pilot on the shoulder and joked, "You can't bear to let him go, so just meet him." The scene of father and daughter recognizing each other and crying in each other's arms is so touching. Yes. The mecha pilot who revealed his true colors was Tang Fan's father who had been looking for so long. Tang slapped away the hand that Lao Weir had placed on his shoulder, and said unhappily, "You don't have any idea of who we are and what we do. This is not a father-daughter reunion, it's just looking for trouble for my baby. You're just watching the fun and don't mind making trouble." Some things can't be said. Lauer would never admit that he was just watching the fun. After all, although his fighting ability is not weak, it is still not as good as the man in front of him. "I heard that this guy is a daughter slave?" Lauer's eyes rolled and he quickly changed the subject. "When I took this child from Sangzi Star to Blue Sea Star, I tasted the fish sashimi made by the little girl. That taste is really good. The reason why you are confident to send her anywhere is because of her cooking skills." When talking about his daughter, Tang attention was immediately diverted, and he was successfully led astray by Lauer. "Not entirely. My dear's favorite thing, besides me, is mecha casting. Old Land's Place is really a good place to learn mecha casting. I just didn't expect that those who should and shouldn't go have gone, and those who should and shouldn't stay have also stayed." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.